All right, hello, shalom. Shalom, everybody. Peace. How's everybody doing? May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it's in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Amen. Welcome. Welcome. Hopefully everybody is doing well. Thank you for being on with us. As we continue, this is the last day of our Q&A week. I am, as always, I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And thank you for being on with us today. We appreciate your presence, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what your belief system is. We thank you for being on with us. We give all honor and praise once again to Yahweh Elohim. He is Abba at Yashva at Ravak HaKodash. We give all praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist. Biologist by degree for those that need that little extra oomph. We're thankful and grateful to each and every one of you. And to everybody, to Lie and Die and everybody, right? Hello once again, my name is Kofi. How are you doing? Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Hopefully, ça va bien. Namaste, ni hao, osayu, Ohio, um, Aquaba, Etesen, Jambo, Habari, Bimini Kofi, Nina Fra, Kukutana, Nueve. We're thankful and grateful to everybody who's joining us today. We're going to end this Q&A week today. This is the 7th day of this, so we're thankful and grateful and proud and excited and happy to have you with us one more again. And we appreciate you all for being on. Thank you. Hello to everybody. Shalom to you. Peace be upon thee as we're getting ready to go towards Sunday, Holy Day, 25th, 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern, New York time on Zoom. Hopefully you got the information. If you didn't get it already, let us know. How you doing, Jolene? Shalom. How you doing, Sister Deborah? How you doing, Tremaine? How you doing, Longfellow? Nay, Cookie 86, Cool Stanty. If I said that correctly, hopefully I did. Stephen, how you doing? Up in the D. Ginger Water, thanks for being part of the community. Sharice, Mayhew, Minister Tamara. Uh-oh. How you doing, Sonia Lynn? Thanks for being on. Mo Desire, Nay, Shaman Choir. I don't know if I said that correctly. Thanks for being on with us. We appreciate you. Thanks for being part of the community. Sister Carrie, hello. You said you are Hebrew and you believe in the Sabbath. Do we have a nice day? Do you have a nice day? I believe in Yahweh. Okay. Are you saying have a nice day? Okay, thank you. Glad to have you here. Thank you, Ginger. So we're gonna get right into this, and this is Q&A week. So we're kind of coming to an end this week. Also, those that are in Florida, by the way, in the South Florida area, we will be there this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Especially on Saturday, we're gonna try to come together as a community. So hopefully, if you're in that area, you want to come out and say hello. We haven't gotten that much information from everybody, so we're prepared, even if it's just 1-2 people that show up. But we love to see, or 1-2 families or whatever. But we love to say hello to everybody. So hopefully, we get a chance to say hello. Oh, you're in Atlanta? Okay, cool. Yeah, we frequently come through Atlanta. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? So in this Q&A session, right, and by the way, we're back. We're thankful to be back on Kofi_43. They lied on us, and we're still dealing with some legal issues and stuff since TikTok. Who's lied in the past, but they lied with a really, really big lie. It gets bigger each time, where they said we were showing nudity, and we already did a video showing specifically what we were showing, and working on that. But they took us off, so we were on Kofi_42 for a little while. Now we're back here today, and we wish you guys peace. If you're trying to come on, if you're on TikTok, if you want to actually, I don't know if you call it call in or chime in or, say something where we can hear you. Maybe if you want to be seen, whatever the case might be, we can possibly open that up as well. Just let me know in the chat. If I don't know who you are calling in, I'm probably not going to answer, because we try to keep this a safe space and we try to make sure everybody feels respected and stuff like that. So if I don't know who you are, please at least announce yourself prior to. But how you doing? How you doing, Sister Beverly, Eugene, Brother Clem, Bounty? Shalom to everybody. And one of the things, so I'm going to start off right at the back. Whatever questions you have, please put them in the comment section. I will do my best to get to them ASAP. I am a human being, though, so if for some reason I miss your question, comment, or concern, please feel free to put it in the chat again for us. But I want to talk about, I want to start off with the question about humility. How you doing, Brother Vincent? I want to start off with a question about humility. How you doing, Anubis? It's very important that we talk about humility, humbling yourself. And humbling yourself is actually a little different. Remember, we always talk about a different cultural perspective. So those who might hear some stuff and you'd be like, that's not what I believe, or that's not what I heard, or whatever, that's fine. To each their own, right? But we're talking about a specific culture. Culture always influences all the decisions that we make, believe it or not. We're talking about culture here. And so when we talk about humble, a lot of people don't even know how to deal with the word humble, because it's hard to talk about humility. People say you can't be humble if you call yourself humble. You can't really be humble if you think you're humble, all these things. But it's because we go off of redefined things. Words were fine the way that they were, and then we redefined it. Right? So things were fine the way that they were, but then we redefine things to the point to where we're not sure how they actually should be seen or thought of or introduced or talked about anymore, right? So we're talking about being humble, humility. The word humble actually has a root word that you're probably very familiar with. This word called humus. Now you use this word humus all the time, not hummus, right? But humus. Humus is what you use for the word human. Human. What does human mean? How you doing, Keith? What does human mean? Human means humus, man. It's a compound word. Just like alone is a compound word, all one, all in one. So they just put all one together. You take away L, you make it alone, right? So when it says it's not great for man, or it's not virtuous, it's not righteous, it's not constitutional, it's not good for man to be alone, we're saying that it is not a correct thing for someone to be all one. If you're all one, then it's not going to be something that causes you to bear fruit, et cetera, correctly, right? You can have a lot of power, but you're not going to be able to do the same thing you would if you had others united, right? So humus, man, just like all one, right? But humble is the same root word, hum, right? We don't pronounce it humble, right? But it's humble. And we don't say human, but it's really the same root word, hum, right? Going back to humus. So to be humble, right now we got to understand what humus man is, right? Thanks for being part of the community, James. So humus man, what is humus? Man is spirit. You think man is male. Man is really spirit. So if man in our culture is spirit, and you have humus, what is humus? Humus is dark, rich, nutrient earth, by definition. That's why you talk about the hue of something, you're talking about the color of it. So a humus is the color, a colored, dark, rich, nutrient earth. So in order to be human, you are somebody who comes from something that started with dark, rich, nutrient earth that has a man inside of it, or a spirit. You breathe into that and you become a living soul. So in order to be humble or humusable or humble, what we are saying is you must be willing to be down to earth, down to dirt. That's what we're saying. Thanks for being part of community, H. Keller. By definition, humus man is dark, rich, nutrient earth with a spirit inside, right? Or if you want to just say earth with a spirit inside, right? So if we're talking about being humble, then we must be down to earth. If I don't have humanity, you'll see that? If I'm not a human, if I'm not a spirit with a human inside, and I know what it is to be disciplined as such, as we were talking about discipline today a lot in our early rise of Bible study session. If I'm not humus, humble, or if I'm not down to earth, I cannot be humble. Y'all see that? I cannot be humble if I'm not down to earth. I cannot be a humble man, a human, if I'm not down to earth. Right? This is specific saying. So when we talk about humility, people say you can't be humble, right, unless somebody else calls you humble. But being humble means that I am who I am. I am human, therefore I can't help but be humble. If I am myself, I am humble. Not if I'm what you want me to be, but if I'm what I'm created to be, I have to be humble by definition. See, people think humble means low, but see, humble means down to earth. So in a sense, it's low, but humble really means that I am who I say I am. See, look, I believe that there are some narcissists out there for sure, but some people that you call narcissists are people that are humble because they are what they are. There have been people who told you that you're a narcissist because you are who you are. Why you always think that you know everything? I don't know everything, but what I know, I know. Why you think that you got all the answers? I don't have all the answers, but the ones I have, I promise you, I can prove them several ways. You said, what does down to earth mean? It means, first of all, you're made of earth, right? So we talked about this scripture earlier in the early rising session. The first division of Psalm, what we call Psalm chapter 1, right? Blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of those who are not like Elohim, nor sit in the seat of scornful, all that, right, etc. Right? But his delight is in the law of the Lord. His delight is in Yahweh, and on his word does he meditate, or doth he meditate day and night? Right? It's comparing you to a tree. What are you rooted in? The ground that you're rooted in, earth, right, is the tree, and the tree bears the fruit. So so it says you will be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, right? The earth that you're planted in is by the rivers of water, mem, and we talk about the spirit. So the spirit meeting with the earth, the human, right? And being in position, in the correct position, being yourself, planted correctly in the right position, says what? Says that your leaves will not wither, and in your seasons you will always bear fruit. So when we're saying down to earth, we're literally talking about being rooted in the earth. You said being humble helped you with your anger by accepting yourself and the way you feel. Yeah. Right. So being rooted in who you are, being rooted in your origin, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, the physical manifestation, right? But against what? Principalities, the origin of yourself, right? The origin of yourself. The origin of self is what you wrestle against, right? But when you come to yourself, even the prodigal son, right? Prodigal son says, "Give me my inheritance. I want to leave early. I got all the lessons. I don't need you to teach me anything." All these different things. How you doing, brother Alton? All these different things. Like, just give me whatever you want. Give me whatever you want. Give me everything I deserve. Rather, I want all the stuff. I want all the stuff, right? And he got out there and he got away from his upbringing. He got away from his culture. He got away from his people. He got away from his father. He got away from his source. He got away from who he was. And the first thing it says, it doesn't say that he said, "I'm gonna just go back." It first thing it didn't say, he didn't say, "I realized that I'm not great enough, this and that." First thing it says is he came to himself. How you doing, Sister Betty? That's the first thing it says. It says he came to himself. His humus, his dirt, his origin, where he came from. He came back to himself. That's what it says, right? He humbled himself. Hallelujah, right? That's what he said. That's what it said. He humbled himself. You said, "How do I feel about enlightenment?" I'm sorry, that's a very broad question. Can you help me? Are you talking about, you want to define enlightenment? What is enlightenment? Where do you go for enlightenment? Like, there's a lot of different ways we can go with that. If you don't mind helping me out with that. Who was that? I don't know if I'm gonna say this right. Bothitri? Probably not. I'm pretty sure I'm not saying that right. I know it's pronounced differently. I just can't remember how. But you got to humble yourself, right? Even if we're going to talk about enlightenment, right? Like, what is enlightenment truly? Like, what is the origin of enlightenment? What is the origin of enlightenment? Where's the first time you even really see? But once again, we don't know culture and we don't know what words were in their origin. So what's the first place that you even see enlightenment as far as from a biblical context? Okay. I know somebody told me this, but I'm talking about not see people that are enlightened. I'm talking about the word enlightenment. See, in English, it doesn't come across as enlightenment, so you'll miss it. Said, "I am confident," which makes me a little abrasive, but I'm not going to dumb myself down. Yeah. By the way, they got an old saying, and they even say it in the churches. They say KISS, KISS. So it's supposed to be an acronym that basically means, or not an acronym, but you know what I'm saying. It basically supposed to be like, keep it simple, stupid, or keep it simple, saints. I don't know why you would simplify it and make people feel like, or only give people things that are simple, or treat them like they're stupid. Right, but the enlightenment, right? You have Badashatz, right, which is on point. right? But even in this word, out of Badashat, right? Badashat, by the way, is the first word of the Bible, right? 6 characters. You think it's Genesis, but actually Badashat, it means in beginning. There is no the in the Hebrew language, so it means in beginning. Also, it means 6 characters. Each character has a meaning. So it means Bet, Aleph, Resh, Shin, Yal, Tav, which means the son who comes out the right family, who's one with the Father, will become our head by being destroyed, being led to the cross. So even that first word will enlighten you about everything else that you're getting ready to use, right? Even that word enlightenment will help you to get ready for everything else you're about to read. But see, you think it's Genesis, so you're thinking you need to focus on the genealogy because it talks about generation in chapter 1, then generations chapter 2, and then talks about generations chapter 5 and generations chapter 10, and so on and so forth, right? But really, it's about a shot in beginning, talking about we have to have a mindset of everything we're reading is leading us up to the son who comes out the right family, who's one with the Father, who becomes our head by being destroyed, led by the Holy Spirit to the cross. That's the first word. That's enlightenment, right? But the focus I was really looking for is later on. So after we get past Badashat Bara Alachem Achamayam Atarats, right? And we go into and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the spirit of Elacham moved upon the face of the water. And Elacham said, what? Let there be light. Let there be what? Light. Oh, it's our pleasure, CR7. Let there be light. Repeat, please. Yeah, Badashat. That's actually a very great spelling of it. Usually I put an A where you have the I, but it's a great spelling. And so that letter B it's actually a Hebrew character. And if you were to make that letter a capital A, it'd be a Hebrew character. Both of them would be put on their side, right? The letter R you have would be a capital R flipped around the opposite way with a little head on top of it or a little hat almost, if you will. Then Sheen would be written like the SH would be written like a W or like an E. Actually, a capital E, put the capital E where the horizontal side is down on the bottom. The Yod would be like the letter Y, but put it on its side. And then when you have the line that comes out, the capital Y, then put another line that goes up, up vertically. And then the Tav would be a lowercase t and just lean it to the side. So take it like this, lean it to the side. And that's Bet, that letter B. Bet, it means the son that comes out the right family. Aleph, that capital A, that means the Father. Resh, that capital R flipped backwards, that would be head. Sheen, that capital E put on its side, or the E, the long part where the 3 lines come out of is down. 3 lines are going up vertically. That would be destroyed. Yod, that capital Y I talked about with the other vertical line coming off of it. That's the hand that leads, and then Tav, that lowercase t, that means marked, finished, even perfect. That means the end of the Aleph Bet, and it also represents the cross, right? So you have all those things about the shots, right? But what I was talking about is enlightenment, right? So after we get past that word that says "let there be light," that's not a physical light. That word that says light is not a physical light. That word that means light is not a physical light. That word there that says light, it's actually enlightenment. It actually means enlightenment. How do we know this? Even with just using simple English, because some people say, well, it says light. Well, yeah, it says light in English, but it's enlightenment. First of all, the Holy Spirit, who enlightens us, teaches us, she hovers upon the face of the water, right? Chapter 2, verse 2. But then when it says, let there be light, remember, the sun, the moon, and the stars don't exist until Yom Dalet, which is the 4th day. So it's not talking about physical light, which means the darkness ain't necessarily focused on physical darkness either. So we're focused on enlightenment and confusion, or light and dark. And by the way, you start really always in darkness and then go to light, right? That's why it's the evening and the morning was this day, the evening and the morning, the evening and the morning, right? Our days in Israel, before they started giving you time zones, where we were, you would say the beginning of the day was about 6 p.m. Eastern New York, or well, 6 p.m. I go off of Eastern because that's where I am, but the beginning of the day would be 6 p.m. The first hour, there were 12 hours. So even in your Bible, sometimes it'll say, this hour, thus and such happened. This hour, thus and such happened. This hour, thus and such happened, right? So the first hour was actually like 6 to 8. The second hour was like 8 to 10. The third hour was 10 to midnight. The fourth hour was midnight to 2 a.m. So on and so on and so forth, right? And how you doing, Henry? And thanks for being part of the community. It's on them. It's on. Is it that it's on? or it's Hon MC. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Hello, omnipresent. Thanks for being part of the community. Yeah, growth out of pain, learning from mistakes, not knowing and getting better, being born in darkness, right? Birth out of darkness, the triple darkness, even right, to be able to come into life and continue enlightenment, things like that. How you doing, Sister Cynthia? So, so those are the things. So when we're talking about humility, that's what we're talking about. I'm not sure what was somebody put September 24th. I'm not sure what that question is. Is there something supposed to be happening? I think somebody told me something about September 24th. I think I was supposed to look it up. I don't remember what it is. What can you enlighten me real quick? I don't remember what that is. How you doing, Kelly? Thanks for being part of the community. The Butcher tree is the tree where, yeah, okay, I thought so. Yeah, right. Where, depending on what story you find and all those different things, yeah, you see the stuff, or maybe people have taken him now away from the Bantu knots or different things, so where now it's snails on his head or different things of that nature. Yeah, okay, yeah. I figured I was like Bodhisattva and all that stuff. Yeah. How you doing, Dimples? Thanks for being on. Hello, Charles Jones. Thanks for being part of the community, Tracy. Avanti or Vanti, I'm not sure. You said it's obvious that the Most High, in the Messiah's name, He is coming. All right. We don't disagree that He's coming. How you doing, babe? My wife is on, the Honorable Amma. Once again, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. Hello, Southern Core. Hello, Sister Rhonda. Hello, Jeremy. I'm sorry I missed y'all. You said, Shalom, I am extremely disturbed this morning. I have just discovered the signing of the human fraternity establishing one world religion, Chrislam, has been ratified in the Synagogue Mosque Church. Oh yeah, well yeah, I mean that's something that's been coming for decades, really, and they had told everybody it was going to be coming this year. So, it's a sign. Those are things that we knew were coming. But once again, it doesn't mean it's the end of everything, because what's the thing that's going to end everything? Matthew 24, verse 14. When this particular interpretation is preached throughout all of the world, all of the system, and everybody has a chance to be able to clearly know you're going this way, you're going that way, then he's coming back. You said the world is telling us September 24th something is going to happen, and what it is, he's in control. It could be. So this is let's go to this scripture, right? So this is kind of something. So I don't know exactly what the September 24th thing is supposed to be, but I can tell you for sure what we know of as far as biblical context, right? Because everybody said doomsday was 1914. People said it was 1990. People said it was 2000, right? People said it was going to be Y2K. People said it was going to be 2012. People said it was going to be 2008. People said the Mayan calendar was going to be. Then we were wrong about it. So many Christian denominations have told us the end was coming, right? So let's deal with it like this, right? May this give you comfort. May this allow you to be able to see what's going on, all these different things. You said triple darkness. How can we measure darkness? We can write that question down and get to it, because darkness, once again, we're talking about confusion. That's the context, right? But if you want to talk about physical darkness, I mean, how do you measure darkness? You measure darkness by the absence of light. Now, when I'm talking about the triple darkness, I'm talking about when a baby is born, too, specifically. So when a baby is born, you're talking about what? You're talking about a baby that's born, right? That can't see yet, hasn't seen light except for flickers that happen through from time to time. I'm going through with electronic signals and things like that happen. You're also talking about the fact that a baby is inside of a womb, inside of a body that's dark as well. And then so you put that in the fact that the baby doesn't know as many things that happen outside of the confusion. You're dealing with darkness in many different ways. So yeah, we can measure darkness, and sometimes, am I saying I can measure it by a number? No. But that's a different culture where everything has to be measured by number. That's why some people say, I've got to make sure I can write it out exactly. Well, maybe you can write it out exactly, but some things you feel in your heart. Your body thinks with more than just your brain, right? Sometimes you say, I think that, or I don't like that, right? Sometimes you say, I'm not feeling that. Sometimes you say, my heart's not in it. Sometimes you say, I have a gut feeling. Sometimes you say, I can't wrap my arms around that. Sometimes you say, it doesn't, like, I can't really hold on to that thought. Sometimes you say, I don't really walk in that way. It's all talking about thought, correct? So we're not just talking about only what somebody wants us to write down, word by word by word or whatever, or to make sure that fits into their formula. How you doing, Brother TJ? We're talking about something that goes beyond just it's holy. The word whole, holy, put a W before that H, right? It's whole, holy. It's one. And if we're only going to think with numbers, you're going to miss the rest. If you're only going to think with what you can feel or what you can see or what you can taste, you're going to miss the rest, right? It's weird that we believe that a shark can have a sixth sense and we can measure it even though we don't really know. We're just guessing about all the way the shark uses senses, that it must have some kind of sixth sense. But you think that your senses are only limited to what can be written down. Like, we got to be careful. I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but a lot of people get caught in that type of thought process, right? So you said Elohim doesn't permanently give up on one, if you much less billion of souls. Okay. Well, he allows people to make decisions. It's not about giving up on anybody, right? He didn't give up on Cain. Cain could have asked for forgiveness. Cain decided to walk away and become a vagabond and go to the land of Nod, called it the land of wandering, right? He didn't give up on Judas Iscariot. Judas Iscariot realized what he did and killed himself. Nobody said that Judas Iscariot had to die or couldn't be forgiven. It's not his will that any should perish, but all should have everlasting life. We have free will to give up, or free will to keep on going. We have free will to blaspheme against the Holy Spirit, or free will to get ourselves together, right? So we got to be convinced to give up, or we just have to convince ourselves, right? Because the devil really has no authority anyways. And the Most High, he has authority over all, but he doesn't have authority over you. You can be in his authority or outside of it. Right. But let's go ahead and go to this real quick, to Matthew chapter 24. We're going to read it. We're going to focus at the end towards verse 13 and verse 14. But let's go ahead here to Matthew 24. Right. Matthew chapter 24, because this is basically when we're talking about the end times, or this is going to happen September 24th. Because September 24th, I plan on being in the presence of brothers and sisters and having a great time. Right. If the end should come before then after then, it ain't gonna affect me that much, other than I'm just gonna get a glorified body, right? But let's go on into Matthew chapter 24, verse 14. Right? We can talk about the kingdom of heaven in a second. Sure. We're gonna go to Matthew 24, verse 14. The same person who's speaking kingdom, right? We'll go to the kingdom of heaven right after that, right? But kingdom of heaven, right? So we'll look at the kingdom of heaven in a second. Matthew chapter 24. Let's go there. We're going to focus when we get there on verses 13 and 14. Great question. Great questions. Okay, Matthew chapter 24. Let's start all the way at verse 1. And Yahshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yahshua said unto them, see ye not all these things? Okay, so where are we at? We're seeing all these things, right? Let's just make this clear. Let's stop. We're not going to make it the spiritual so mystical is not practical. Let's bring it down to practicality. All right, so here we go. Matthew chapter 24, verse 1, right? And his disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. Verse 2, and Yahshua said unto them, see not all these things? Verily, I say unto you, that you is plural, so all the disciples listening, right? That's being part of Community Falcon. He said, what? Verily, that means truly, I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately. So he was speaking to multitudes, and he said it loud enough that multitudes could hear. So the the disciples came to him later on privately. All right. And it said specifically this. They said this was their question. Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Okay. So that's what everybody's telling us. 24th, Saturday, be shaking in your boots. Everything's going to end. Or something's going to happen that's going to change everything forever. Or you're not going to be able to be saved after this. Right? Right? That's what they said. That's what their question was, right? So that's the question that's coming up in different ways about September 24th. I don't know exactly what everybody's saying is supposed to happen September 24th, just like I didn't know what they were happening. Same was going to happen in 2012 and in 2020 and in 2021. Remember, everybody's supposed to get their superpowers and all this stuff, right? We hear all these things, right? I'm here to tell you, right, that we have this same question. How you doing, young prophet? Thanks for being part of the community. The question is, what did the disciples ask? Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, of his individual coming, thy, right? So when you see you, ye, that means plural. They said thee, thy, thine. That means you specifically. When are we going to see you come back? When are we going to see you come back? What shall be the sign of your coming and of the end of the world? The word world there means cosmos with a K. It's talking about the system and the end of this system that we're in. Okay. What are we supposed to see? And Yashua didn't skirt around the answer. It says clearly, and he answered them. Nobody says we know the day nor the time of when he's coming back. Exactly. You're absolutely correct. That's not what we're talking about. But Yashua did answer them. See what I'm saying? So we might not know the day. That means, by the way, Yam is day. So it's period of time or the time. So we don't know the period of time that it's even going to necessarily happen in, nor the exact time it's going to happen. That's what it's actually telling us, right? Okay. You said God doesn't care about, okay, that's great. I don't know. Okay. Like, first of all, I worship Elohim, not God. God can be whatever you want. And cool, we're with you on those things. Like, I get it. I don't understand this whole thing of like, he loves you, he loves you, he loves you. Yes, Elohim does love you, right? And we're not saying he doesn't. Hear what I'm saying, though, right? If you're going to talk about this particular Yashva, right? Because we do this weird thing where we change him up to whatever we want him to be. This particular one, this particular person speaking, right? Not everybody. That's what we made it clear. Not everybody. So this might not be for everybody. There might be some people on here. Look, that's fine. We're talking about a specific cultural perspective. Interpretation means it came from a particular person in a particular language with a particular mindset for a particular people who have a particular set of ears to hear. Right? Revelation chapter 2, Revelation chapter 3. Let those of us who have ears to hear what this pneuma, what this ravak, what the Spirit is saying to the assembly. Okay? So Yashva, I don't know what the Druids are going to tell you is going to happen. I don't know necessarily what Confucius might have believed was going to happen, if he even believed it was going to be end of the world. I don't know what the Taoists will tell you. I don't know what the Mormon Jesus says. I don't know what Yesus or Yesu said. I don't know what a God is telling you as far as the end of the world. I'm not really focused on it. I'm telling you, I'm not saying that they don't matter to me at all. I'm just saying I'm not here. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm not here to give you that perspective, at least not right now. Right. So I'm here to tell you specifically this Yashua, the son of Elohim, the son of Abba, the son bin, right? Yashua bin Abba, Yashua bin Yahava, Yashua bin Yosef, or son of Joseph, right? I'm here to tell you how you doing, be well. I'm here to tell you what he said. What did he say? Yashua answered. They asked him, and what was his answer? Yashua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. Thank you for the love, right? Take heed what? That no man deceive you. Take heed. Take heed. Let's look up what he even means by take heed, by the way, because once again, we're not in context a lot of times when we say these things. So what does he mean when he says take heed? What word would they have used? Let's even focus on the Greek, because a lot of people like the Greco-Roman mentality. Let's focus on the Greek. What does he mean when he says take heed? This word blepo. Blepo. He says to see, discern of the bodily eye, with the bodily eye to be possessed of sight, have power of seeing, to perceive by the use of the eyes, right? To turn the eyes to anything to look upon, to gaze at, right? Metaphorically, so physically speaking, literally look around you, take heed, okay? Metaphorically speaking, to have the power of understanding. Right? Metaphorically speaking, it also means to discern mentally, observe, perceive, discover. That means it's covered up, but it's going to be discovered. Take the cover off. How you doing, Prince? Right? And understand. Metaphorically speaking, it also means to turn the thoughts or direct the mind to a thing, to consider, contemplate, to look at, to weigh carefully, and examine. In a geographical sense of places, it means to even look at things like the perspective as far as mountains, buildings, turning towards any quarter as it were facing it. So to literally look at it from the way of, like, if I'm saying I'm taking heed from the building, you have to say I take heed from the north side of the building. So I can know, okay, this is from the north side of the building. So we're talking about a particular culture. Y'all see that? This word is not saying just do whatever you want or believe whatever you want. This is saying for a particular mindset, a particular vantage point, right? Somebody said pay attention to. Somebody said to beware, to take notice, right? Take heed, to be careful. How you doing, Brother Nye? How you doing, Rodolfo Puente? Right? It says to take heed. Take heed. Right? So this is from a particular context. By the way, even Revelation, right? What does Revelation chapter 1, verse 1 start off with? Chazon, Chazon Aleph at Aleph, right? Or even Chazon Aleph at Gemal, or Revelation chapter 1, verse 1, or Revelation chapter 1, verse 3. It literally starts off in Revelation chapter 1, verse 1 saying, this is not your revelation. This is not a revelation for everybody. It says it's the revelation of Yahshua HaMashiach. It says, and it was given to him of Elohim, the one who knows the day, the time, all that stuff, right? Knows the day, the hour, right? It also says what specifically? It says that also it talks about the fact that he knows specifically, or I'm sorry, it says, and this is specifically for those that are willing to observe and do and be servants of the Most High. Even the revelation is not for everybody because you got to have the right culture, right? And we can talk about compassion and forgiveness in a little bit, right? We can definitely talk about compassion and forgiveness, right? So take heed. Take heed means something different. We're thinking that take heed is take heed of however you want to see it. No, look at it through your physical eye, but don't forget to also examine it through your spiritual, and don't forget to make sure you have the proper vantage point. Okay, so take heed. Take heed of what? Yahshua answered them and said. So he gave an answer. Everybody always says no man knows the date or the time, but it doesn't mean you don't have an answer. He gave an answer. He said, take heed that no man deceive you. What did he mean specifically? See, because remember, receive means to get something, right? Receive means to get it over and over. Deceive means somebody's going to give you something that actually takes away. But when somebody deceives you, they're actually taking away what you've received. Did y'all catch that? So we know receive. We think I receive it. I receive. Receive means repetitively over and over again. But in order to receive, I got to sieve it. Somebody see. If I've sieved something, I got it. Then I receive it. I'm able to get what was planted over and over and over again. To deceive means I'm actually doing something that takes away from you. So he said, "Here's the answer." Right? Once we're still in verse 4, he answered and said, take heed, pay attention from the proper vantage point so that no man can take away from what I've already given you. Right? Yeah, they can reprogram you after right? You get programmed with something righteous. Somebody reprograms you. That means that they have to keep program, or they give you a program and keep doing it over and over again. But somebody can also deprogram you. Right? Somebody can take the program that's there and take it away. And so not every program that's been given to us is wrong. Not every program is not righteous. Not every program does not lift up our community. Not every program does not help us in our humanity and our humbleness and our being a spirit inside of a dirt body and being exactly who we are. Right? So what does he say specifically? He says, take heed that no man deceive you, takes away what you've been given. What does he mean? Right? Just like we are in we always talk about help me to remember. Well, you had something as part of your member. It was dismembered, cut off from you. Now we got to figure out how to remember it, put it back together. So it's part of your member again. Okay? Right? And thanks for being part of the community driven and Moose. We appreciate you and appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much, whether you're on TikTok, YouTube, watching this live, watching this later on. We appreciate you. All right? So take heed that no man can take away what I've given, deceive you. Right? What is he saying? What is he talking about? They'll deceive you in. Verse 5. For many, here we go. Right? Somebody just said we don't know the date or the hour, but everybody's talking about not that person. But I'm just saying, in general, people keep talking about September 24th. This is the new date, and after that it'll be another date, and after that it'll be another date, and another date, right? But he said, take heed, no man takes away from, deceives you. How you doing, Minister Select Shante? Right? So, for many shall come in my name. What does that mean? That means many shall come in my authority. They shall come in my authority, my Shem, my Sham, saying what? I am Christ. Thank you for the compliment. Appreciate it. All right. They'll come saying, what? I am Christ. Right? They're coming saying, I am Christ. I'm Christos. Christos, by the way, is saying, I am anointed. Even if they won't say, I'm the Christ, they'll say, I'm anointed to give you this message. Be afraid of this. Be afraid of that. Right? So many shall come saying, I am Christ. I am anointed and shall deceive many. Shall take away from many. He said, be not deceived. First thing on the list, make sure that you comprehend it. Everybody says that they're anointed, ain't anointed. And definitely those people who say that they are me, they're not me. Right? Thanks for being part of the community, SBU. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the, the name, but thanks for being on. He says, at and. So, and in Hebrew context, at is and is saying at, go towards. Right? So they will come in his name, saying they are him or they are anointed and shall deceive many. Why? And they shall hear. See, you got to know this stuff. You got to know it's already written what to look out for. Right? What should you look out for? And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Right? Not just wars, but even the rumors of wars. You said, why was my God rest and then created his creation in Genesis 1 and 2? Okay, we can go there. First of all, you got to represent the culture correctly. So once again, I don't worship God. I worship Elohim. God is a Germanic deity. But if you want to go into Genesis 1 and 2, we have a whole series literally called Genesis Revisited. So I won't go really, really deep into it, but I'll give you an answer to it as soon as I have a chance to. But there's a difference between the generation and the generations. So you kind of already answer your question when you look at that. That's going to be Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, or Barashet's Bet at Dalit. Right, but we'll get to that in a second. Right, you're asking the wrong question. You're looking at somebody else's culture. You're reading in a different language, and you don't know the origin of it. Right, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against origin. So here we go. So Yashua says that you shall hear wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled, though. You shall hear what? Wars and rumors of wars. But what does it say? See that you not be troubled. Why are you troubled whenever you hear about a war or a rumor of a war going to get started? Why are you troubled? You're troubled because somebody made you think it's the end of things. They asked him specifically, what's the end going to look like? When is the end coming? When are you coming back? You said, why is the name Muhammad mentioned in the Bible? Go ahead and show me the name mentioned, and we can have a conversation. You can help me out with that because I don't have an answer for you in that. Right? Which version are you also talking about? Are we talking about an origin? Are we talking about somebody who wrote a version of it? Are we talking about, which Alexandrian Bible? Are we talking about the actual Bible? What is the roots of the Bible? See, that's a whole nother thing, right? But nevertheless, right? And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See, people don't even want to talk about the actual thing we're talking about, right? People just like, I'm going to tell you why I'm wrong, why you're wrong. Hear what we're talking about. Like, at least see if I know what I'm talking about on this first before you tell me why I'm wrong about everything else. So, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Right? People were saying when World War I happened, 1914, that was supposed to be the end of the world. Are you still here? Okay, Drone, if that's your belief system, right? I'm talking about our culture and our belief and what the Bible actually articulates. If you can show me where it says that the earth is going to continue forever, I kind of probably already know where you're headed with that. But if that's your thing, cool. Once again, we're coming from a particular perspective. If you're willing to listen long enough to even see if we might have some agreement on the perspective before we start tearing each other up. So once again, and ye shall hear of the wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Well, wait a minute. All these things, you just talked about wars. What other things? Right. Well, what else? Verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be, not might be, there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. In diverse places, diverse places. All right. All these are the beginning of sorrows. See, when you got saved, you probably signed up for everything that just happened overnight. When you started reading this stuff, you probably thought everything was going to happen. That was going to be the end of it. Right? But all these are the beginning of sorrows. How you doing, Sister Barbara? All these things are what? The beginning of sorrows. Verse 9. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted. So then you still got to be what? Delivered up to be afflicted. You got to carry your own cross. And shall kill you, and shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. By the way, he's just telling you what he told you in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, verse 10 through 12, that you should rejoice and be exceeding glad when they say all manner of evil against you. Verse 10, and then shall many be offended. So what we say is going to be offensive. And how you doing, Minister Sonia? If I didn't say so already, how you doing, Sister Mary and Auntie Mary? Hello, shalom to everybody. Peace be upon everybody on all the platforms. If you're watching this live later on, or if you're with us right now, how you doing? How you doing, Michelle? Thanks for being on. How you doing, Cash? Amen. Right. So, and then shall many be offended. If I just simply say what I say, bring up what this is saying. Read your Bible, it'll bless you, right? I'm not saying you've never read your Bible. I'm just saying a lot of people, they speak on things without even reading it. So when I simply read what he says, many shall be what? Offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. People talking about, man, I don't need no haters or blah, blah, this and that. You should love when you have haters. Haters mean that you're on the right track. Verse 11, and many false prophets shall rise and shall what? Again, deceive many. Many shall what? Deceive many. Thank you for the compliment. Appreciate it. Verse 12, and because iniquity, what is iniquity? Right? You off. Sin. You're not lawful. You're not even legal. There's a difference between lawful and legal, right? You said read in Hebrew, don't read in English. We talk about the Hebrew stuff all the time. We literally write it out and stuff all the time. If you would like to go back and look at some of our recordings, you can. But, you know, what I'm saying, if it makes sense in the Hebrew context, and if I'm talking about characters, heck, I brought up Yod and He and Vav and some stuff already, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, about a shot to make sure people comprehend what we're talking about. Maybe you haven't been on the whole time. But once again, hang in there long enough before you try to just throw everything apart. Hang in there long enough. I'm talking to people that don't know Hebrew. So if you're saying I should only speak in Hebrew only, right? And really, I'm not even trying to speak in modern Hebrew. I'm trying to speak in the Hebrew that was used when the Bible was written. And I should only do that. And I should lose everybody else. I don't think that's appropriate. That doesn't make sense. How are we going to teach people what they can't even comprehend, right? So, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. That's why it tells you in 2 Timothy chapter 3 that there are people walking around without natural affection. They are walking around without what? Without natural affection, without affection being of their nature. These are things that we're supposed to go through. Now, here we go to the focal point, right? Matthew chapter 24, verse 13. Okay, Sugar, thank you. Yeah, I knew you were probably going to go there. That's fine. Maybe we have time to get to that question today. Maybe we don't. But thank you so much for making sure that you tell me that Muhammad therefore has to be the prophet that makes sure that he corrected everything and all these things. But even when you talk about the Quran, we got to make sure we go to the other books to be able to make sure that people even comprehend what was going on there. Since Muhammad himself, right? Blessing be upon he, and right, and but even he has other people that had to have another book to be able to explain what he was saying, because people try to take it into a different context. And so those that walked with him, like Mansa Musa's older brother, who was a king, and all these different people, and his last wife, and all these people, they had to explain to us what he was saying, because we oftentimes lose the meaning, right? But we can get there at some point. Once again, before we assume that somebody has no knowledge of anything, let's just walk together in this, right? Let's see if I actually know something about what I'm talking about first before we try to demolish everything, okay? So Ishmael is my brother. I don't hate somebody just because they're a Muslim. Hopefully somebody wouldn't hate or tear apart everything that I'm doing just because I'm a follower of the way, because I'm not a Christian, right? This is not a Christian thing that we're talking about, okay? But thank you so much for making sure, right? And everybody's going to continue to tell me that. That's fine. So I'm going to focus. I'm going to try and focus, because at this point, it doesn't seem like we're actually trying to make the main thing the main thing. So the Q&A for today, we're talking about this specifically. People are asking about the September 24th thing. When do we know he's coming back? I'll answer that question, and then I'll go down the list, all right, like we've been doing. Thank you so much, though. I do appreciate it. I just got to, at some point, get to the subject matter, right? So it says in verse 13 and 14, after all these things we've talked about, right? Verse 13, he says, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved, right? He that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So it tells us wars are coming, pestilence is coming, Sickness is coming, right? Rumors of war are coming. People are going to say they're the Christ. People are going to tell you why you're wrong. People are going to dismiss it. People aren't even going to listen to you. All those things, those are the things that have to come, but those are the beginnings of sorrows. It tells you endure all those things, right? Until the end. Once again, Yahshua started to answer. And in verse 4, Yahshua actually answered, right? So before we get into all these things, he gave us an answer. I'm coming from his particular answer. This particular culture, what did he say? Yahshua actually took time out to answer. And what did he answer? Right? He said all these things are going to happen, but you have to endure. If you endure, you shall be saved. Interestingly enough, nobody ever brings this up at the end of a service when they say just confess and believe. Nobody even brings up verse 1 that comes before that verse. In Romans chapter 10, verse 9, Romans chapter 10, verse 1 says, it's my prayer that Israel would be saved. Romans chapter 10, verse 13, you have to call upon his name in order to be saved. But how can you call upon his name in order to be saved if you don't believe? And how can you believe if you haven't heard this? And how can you hear it if it hasn't been preached? How can it be preached if the message is not sent by the Most High himself? Which is why Isaiah says, these are all, I'm just reading down scripture. Isaiah literally says, what? Paul brings up what Isaiah said, who hath believed our report? Right? Who hath believed our report? So this ain't for everybody. Once again, not everybody's going to believe this, then that's okay. So verse 14, right? For those who endure to the end and shall be saved, this is what it says. After we realize those who endure to the end, keep this interpretation and shall be saved. Verse 14 says, and this gospel, right? You say gospel because you're into, Greco-Roman terms, Germanic deity, stuff like that. So you say gospel, which is God's spell, right? But really, it would actually be interpreted as, excuse me, this particular gift of knowledge bestowed upon thee, right? That's cool. Islam is the fastest growing religion. That's cool. That doesn't support or defend what I'm talking about, but that's cool, right? Or it doesn't even go against what I'm talking about. Ishmael is my brother, so I don't know why we're doing this fighting against one another today, but hey, it is what it is, right? Like, I have mad love for y'all regardless. So, and this particular interpretation, right? And this particular interpretation, right? It says it shall be preached in the all world for a witness unto all nations, right? This particular one, right? Shall be preached where? To all nations. Right? That's what it says. This particular one, not every single one, but this particular one. That's what it says. Okay. Hold on one second. I'm having a problem here. So we have so it says when we preach this particular message into the entirety of the world, into the entirety of the planet, right? Then it says he's coming back. Then it says that should be the end times. That's what it says. So if that's the end times, if that is the end times, right, then it means that we have to preach this particular message. Once this message goes across, then he's coming back. Then he's coming back. All right. And this is the thing. So once again, and just real quick, so after this, if you want to confuse it, I know what you're talking about. Song of Solomon 5:16. I made sure I went over it just to make sure, but it doesn't in the original text, and even in not, let's go back past English. It doesn't use the term Muhammad. Right now, if you're going to say that the term Muhammad has similar meaning to some of the words or one of the words in particular, then okay. Like, but even with that, like it's not talking about that. That's not even the context, right? It's talking about the daughters and the sons of Yarashalam. If you read the whole entire chapter, right? And the entire chapter is talking about something to where it's an ode to a marriage in between a king and a particular woman, right? So if we're going to deal with that, we got to deal with it within context. I'm not denying what anybody has to say. Once again, I don't even comprehend all this. Like, why? I have to ask a question. And all that question, you got to ask yourself, why is there so much thing of like, hey, you think that I like despise you, or that you have to tell me why I'm bad. Like even in jihad, like, in some of your jihad, you can still help somebody who's not necessarily as righteous as you might feel. Now, if you're just going off of this weird changing of what Muhammad preached, which is, some people try to take that to the destruction of other people, that's a weird place to go because that's not supposedly what he meant. So it's very odd for us to do that. I think even to your prophet, right? Like even if that's if you believe him to be a prophet, not to be a prophet, it's very odd to take his words and say, everybody must die, even though it depends on how you want to interpret it. I get it. See, we're getting into interpretation. Do you believe that he said you're supposed to come on and just basically like tell everybody that they're a bad person, or do you believe that he came on and he said even in making um, of this newer your religion, because that's what it is. It's not you're talking about a different context, because this is talking about something that like what we've just been focusing in, even in going to the Song of Solomon. You're talking about something that's thousands of years, at least 1,000 years plus, right? For the thousands of years, we're talking about some thousands of years of principle that happens before that. That being said, once again, Ishmael is my brother. So if your whole thing is to make me fight against my brother on here, I'm not here for that. I'm not here for it, right? And if you want to have a stuff where it's going back and forth and stuff and tearing each other apart, but I would never, I'm my brother's keeper, and hopefully he would feel the same way, right? So I'm not going to deal with that part. If you want me to go ahead and do those things, that's not who I am. Much love, much respect for you, even if you feel different about me. Uh, Thank you, Ms. Mac. Appreciate that. Somebody asked about the kingdom of heaven. Now I can't remember. Oh, I guess they asked particularly describe the kingdom of heaven or something. Now I think we talked about this already in our questioning. So I think this might be in day. If you go to the YouTube channel, look up the recording for our Q&A week series. You might look for day 3, day 4, maybe day 5, somewhere in there, where we discussed this a couple of times. But the kingdom of heaven, right? Radach Shamayim, or Radach At Shamayim, however you want. The kingdom of heaven is in us, right? All right. So the kingdom of heaven is within us, and so the kingdom of heaven is within you also. But really, when you're talking about the spirit, when you're talking about heaven, the kingdom of heaven can be technically like in anything that is in the Most High. So if you are in the Most High and He is in you, then the kingdom has to come with Him, because as a requirement, the king is over a domain. So if there's his domain, then he's the king. If he's a king, then there's a domain. When we talk about a particular kingdom, we're talking about this king who is has a domain in heaven. So one of the things about the kingdom of heaven that becomes there is, first of all, you got to know how to look for it. This is why in the Sermon on the Mount, our sweet spot here, Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5 is very important. First of all, Matthew chapter 4, verses 23 through 25 are extremely important, right? You got to really get to Matthew chapter 4, verse 23 through 25 to really comprehend even how the necessity of the kingdom. See, he was preaching on the kingdom of heaven because there's a necessity for the kingdom. All right, thank you about the pineal gland. I got you. I saw you. I believe, and being melanated, I believe melanin, the pineal gland. Matter of fact, a lot of people talk about being the soul. If you look at it from the side, it looks like the eye of Horus. If you look at it from the front, it looks like the third eye. You have some people that have sulfur inside of it. Some people in the center of it. Some people have selenium, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm with you. I got you. Okay. Before we pick apart everything and just say, yell, 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 like just follow me long enough, see if we agree on something. I promise you, I'm not just some cat out here who's never heard of anything. I don't know everything, but at least give me a chance, right? And if that's your way of saying hello, maybe that was your way of saying hello, greetings to you. Right? So the kingdom of heaven, Radach Shamayim, right? Which we're talking about, Radach Shamayim, Radach At Shamayim. What are we talking about? What is this kingdom of heaven? Radach Shamayim. We have some clues, first of all. Once again, if you go to Matthew chapter 4, verse 23 to 25, you will discover that before we even get to the Sermon on the Mount, which is where they go to the high place in Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 and 2, and then he starts speaking Matthew chapter 5, verse 3, and Luke chapter 6 and other places, etc. Matthew chapter 5 through 7, Luke, etc. Before we get there, you'll see that first things first, Yahshua felt the need to be able to go around all of Galilee, right? And he was doing all these great things. But first things first, it said that he went and he preached the kingdom of heaven to the synagogues. He had to preach kingdom first because people had gotten away from kingdom. So a lot of stuff that we're talking about is not culturally based or kingdom accurate. He said, verse 15, would not the combining of the religions possibly be the abomination of desolation? We'll see if we go there. I don't know if I'm be able to make it there today. We'll see. That's a great question. Right? But I don't even know if I really have a full answer for you. I might have to do some research and give you a special answer another day. But see, the kingdom of heaven first. In Matthew chapter 4, verses 23 to 25, we have this whole huge thing going on, right? Where people are trying to go all over the place. How you doing, Minister Select Joseph? And Israel had gotten away from being Israel. Israel had gotten away from being humble, humus, dirt, down to earth, rooted in the right place. Right? Yeah, what I do some research on ancient schools and mysticism. That's why I'm able to talk about them somewhat. But I know everything? No, it's not really my goal to know all mysticism and things, because of my focus. But yeah, we do study some of those things to make sure we're aware of what other people say. But Matthew chapter 4, verse 23 to 25, we see specific things that are saying like, hey, before I can heal, it says before he was healing, before he was taking out unclean spirits, before he was doing all these different things, it said he had to preach kingdom first. Because once again, humus man is what? Human, rich, dark, nutrient earth with a spirit inside. What is humble or humble? Humble is what? Get down to earth, right? Be rooted and grounded in the proper position so that you can hear properly and have the right perspective. Be humble even until the culture in which you're talking to, right? This is why we always talk about cultural perspective. In order for us to have proper conversation, we have to have proper cultural perspective. How you doing, Brother Keon? Right? And congratulations to you. I don't know if I said that to you or not. I got to reach out to you. Congratulations on what the Most High is doing in your life. Praise Yah. Yeah, you've been hanging in there and you've seen some great things happen. How you doing, Alexis? Thanks for being part of the community. So humble yourself to this, right? Let's get into culture. He said, first things first, before I can even preach the Sermon on the Mount, I've got to preach kingdom. Before I can heal anybody, I've got to preach kingdom. Before I can do any kind of taking out unclean spirit, I've got to preach kingdom. Before we can talk about this stuff, we have to preach kingdom. We talked about the bloodline of Abraham and stuff like here a lot. If you'd like to be able to look up some of the stuff on our podcast, we have like 80 something parts, I think. And we got cut short too. But yeah, like 80 something parts just talking about the bloodlines and stuff like that, or the genealogy, the generations. So we know a lot. If you get into the 42, 14 times 3 part of it or whatever, if you know what I'm talking about. Or if you just go to Matthew chapter 1, go to Matthew chapter 1. Matthew chapter 1, Luke chapter 3, Genesis chapter 5, Genesis chapter 10, et cetera, right? But once again, we got to preach kingdom. See what I'm saying? We got to preach kingdom. Because even in all that stuff, as far as the bloodline, what is the kingdom? What is Avra? What is Yashla? Who is Abraham? Who was he when he was Abraham? Or Ibrahim? Who was he when he was Ibrahim? Who was he? First, right? So he had to preach kingdom first. Then he starts talking about in Matthew chapter 5, verse 3, he took him to a high place, like figuratively and literally. He took them to a higher place. They went up high and he began to teach about the kingdom. First thing he says, right? First thing he says is what? Blessed are the poor in spirit. People keep telling you that you don't know enough. Right? People keep saying you don't know enough. You're spiritually not this. But he said, blessed are the poor in spirit. Why? Because the kingdom of heaven belongs to you. I didn't explain generation versus generation yet. We've explained it many times before. That's what I'm saying. You might have to go to some recordings, but I'm just going in order. I apologize. I'm a human. I might not hit every single thing that everybody wants me to hit, but generation versus generations. Matter of fact, once again, if you go to YouTube, we have a YouTube channel. Matter of fact, you look at our link tree on there. We have our YouTube channel there on TikTok, but look up hashtag find Kofi, hashtag FIND, like you're looking for something. My name, Kofi, KOFI. As soon as you find it up there, find that. Look in there. We have a playlist literally called Genesis Revisited, where we revisited the series that they took down when they took down our last YouTube channel. Go on there and look, and you'll see that we talk about. We have a whole part where we talk about generation versus generations, and we talk about where the human beings prior to Adam, all these different things. We mentioned those things in a few of the parts. Okay, so if you get a chance to, just go on there and look for them. Right. So just in case I don't get to it, I do have Genesis 1 and 2 on here on my list of questions. But just in case I don't get to it, feel free to go on there. Okay. I just want to put that out there. So thank you. So thanks for the question. I don't want you to feel like I'm gonna skip over it. We will try to get there. Okay. So Matthew chapter 5 now, verse 3. First thing he says is what? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Why? For the kingdom of heaven belongs to them. You said, so if you have a rich spirit and the kingdom of heaven is not for you, that's not what I was saying. That's not what he said, right? Because just because he says one thing doesn't mean that we have to say, well, then the opposite has to be 100% true. It's the context. So what's the context? There were a bunch of people who said they were rich in spirit, that were religious leaders, that were saying that because you don't do what we do, you don't say what we say, you don't live how we live. Thank you for the love. You don't act like we act. You don't speak how we speak. You don't use the language we use. You're not as powerful in the spirit. Therefore, we're rich in spirit and you're poor in spirit, right? The reality is not that you're poor in spirit because you don't speak like me, right? Yeah, he was basically talking about being more haughty or not being humble, humus, down to earth, rooted in the right thing. So these religious leaders were telling people, thank you for the love. These religious leaders were telling people, you're not as powerful as us. You don't know how to pray like us. Go and look at Matthew chapter 6 before he gives you what's now known as the Lord's Prayer. He tells you don't pray like those religious leaders, because they used to pray prayers like, I praise Yah that I'm not like this man over here. Like they used to pray like that, you know. Thanks for the love, Just Banks. So he was saying, don't be like them, right? So going back, fast forward a little bit in the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the poor in spirit. He's trying to say, y'all have been told. See, once again, you got to comprehend what's going on. When you look at Matthew chapter 4, verse 23 to 25, not only was he preaching the kingdom, but it says people from all over the place started following him. We think it's only Israelites. It says people from Africa were following him, and places like what you now call the Middle East and others. It said other people were coming around and following him from all over the place because they saw what he was doing. They heard his teaching. They saw what he was doing. They saw him healing. They saw that he was getting people back from the dead. They saw that he was knocking out unclean spirits. And they were like, yo, we got to find out about this. And he saw all these people follow him. He had them follow him to a higher place. And then his first word is, hey, you are not what people say. Just because they say you're poor in spirit doesn't mean that you are not kingdom oriented. Doesn't mean you're not kingdom headed. Doesn't mean you're not headed towards the kingdom. Right? Doesn't mean that your purpose is invalid. Doesn't mean your life is not as great. Matter of fact, you got to even get into it because you got to comprehend some of the Pharisees. Like a lot of Pharisees did, or not a lot, pretty much at that time, particularly, Pharisees didn't even believe, and still to this day, by the way. There are some that argue against this, right? But the Pharisees did not believe that you went to heaven. They believed that this was it. And so you had to be holy here. And heaven was more of a allegorical type thing than it was anything else. So you're dealing with people who are saying we're better than you, see, and so in this heaven, we're living in heaven. You don't live like us, so you're not as righteous, right? The Sadducees were sitting up there. They believed in an afterlife, but they still were thinking they were better than everybody else. The scribes were sitting there writing it out. So when you hear Pharisees, Sadducees, scribes, there's a lot of wild stuff that's going on, and Yahshua is addressing people who have been influenced by this and didn't know which direction to go, and are like, well, I guess I must be poor in spirit because they keep saying they're better, and they talk this word to me, but I don't get it. This word doesn't, I can't identify with it. Anybody ever been there? Like, I can't identify with this message. I don't see myself in this. I guess I can't obtain heaven. So what does Yahshua say at first? The first thing out of his mouth in Matthew chapter 5, verse 3 on the Sermon on the Mount is what? Blessed are those who are poor in spirit. They told you you can't amount to much, but I'm telling you, you're blessed. That in of itself was a paradigm shift. That was a paradigm shift, right? He legit is saying like that was a paradigm shift. You feel that way a lot? Yeah, like a lot of times he was saying, I need you to comprehend. You might feel poor in spirit, but what? The kingdom of heaven is yours. The next verse he said comes out of his mouth. He says, what? Blessed are those that mourn. Why? For you shall be comforted. See, they were mourning over some things, but they couldn't get comfort. The religious leaders weren't there trying to make sure that they gave comfort. They were telling them why they deserve what they got. We were talking about that some in our early Rise of Bible study session for those that were on, right? And if you are part of the Patreon Kingdom or Fam, you can go ahead and look at it later on. Or if you want a recording of it, just let me know and I'll send you the link at some other time, right? But they people come out and tell you what they're going through, and we legit be like, oh man, you know what? Yeah, man, you deserve that. Or if you had done blah, blah. He said, look, if you're mourning right now, look, it's time for you to be comforted. Well, the poor is talking about all of it. You can be poor in spirit, poor financially, poor whatever. They'll always be with you. And that's why Romans chapter 15, verse 1 tells us specifically that those of us that are strong should take on the infirmities of the weak. If somebody doesn't have what they need, we make sure we bless them. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. And thanks for the love. All right. And how you doing, Sister Miko? You know, so he said he saw these people that were walking around like a ship without a sail, right? Like a ship without a rudder. And he said, blessed are you who mourn. Why? For you shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, the humble. That word we were talking about earlier. If you can be humble. Why? Because those are the people that shall inherit the earth. Humble yourself, root yourself in the right thing so you can have your inheritance. Right? So they have been taught because they were humble, or they were too humble, they were too meek, they were poor in spirit. Not only poor in spirit, now here comes the word, poor in finances. I don't have this, or they got more land and they got more money and they have more power, they have more prestige, they can preach better, they can do. He said, no, humble yourself, because the first will be last and the last will be first. Even we read that talking about John yesterday, John the Baptist, when we had the whole argument about was he Elijah and all that stuff. It says that John is the great. Yahshua said John was the greatest man ever born of a woman, the greatest human ever born of a woman. And yet he said, if you will humble yourself, he said you can be greater than him, because the first will be last and the last will be first. Going back to what we were talking about yesterday. And thank you for the love. Appreciate it. So he says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. He's flipping the pancake. He's shifting the paradigm. He says, those that mourn, they shall be comforted. He's shifting the paradigm, right? It's okay to mourn. It's okay, brother. Like, it's okay. Let your guard down, cry a little bit, tell people what's going on. It's okay, right? It's a safe space, right? If you're around people you can't do that, then you're not in the kingdom. You're not in the presence of kingdom. Go somewhere else so you can, right? Sometimes crying is manning up. See, I don't think that you don't man up because you cry. I think that you don't man up if you don't cry to keep going. Don't cry to quit. Cry to keep going. But it's okay. Shed some tears. Right? So mourn so you can be comforted. Blessed are the humble. Humble yourself and you shall inherit the earth. What does he say after that? Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Why? Because they were being taught, as many people still teach. See, you ain't got it. You ain't got no Holy Spirit. You don't know what you're talking about. They dismiss you, right? Because you're not like us. You can't speak like us. You can't bless. You don't speak this way. You don't do this. You can't preach. You can't teach. You don't write. You don't speak in tongues. You don't interpret. You don't, the list goes on. You don't have this gift. You don't have that gift. All these different things that we put out there, right? But he said, no. He said, if you're hungering and thirsting for righteousness, you shall be filled. Hang in there, right? You said you called to preach. You having a tough time of getting at it right now. You need some speech classes, this and that. You feel like you won't be able to do it. You don't think you have the life experience. He said, hang in there. What you're hungering and thirsting after, you shall be filled, as long as it's what? Righteousness. Yeah, right? You got to be careful. It's not like a clique type mentality, right? So he's saying back then they had this clique, and they said if you don't fit in, you can't be there, right? You know, so he says what? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Verse 7. Blessed are the merciful. Why? Because they'll obtain mercy. People think it's weak. Mercy is for the weak. You ever heard that saying? You probably heard that before, at least once in your life. Mercy is for the weak. I'm not going to give mercy. If that person did this to me, I'll never be able to forgive him. You know, well, Yah gives mercy, but I'm not him. You know, you hear people say craziness like that. But if you can give mercy, he's flipping it. He's saying, look, they're not merciful to you because they always tearing you down. He said, but I have come that you might have life and have more abundantly. They represent the enemy, because the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that you might have life and have more abundantly. So I got to tell you, blessed are the merciful. Give mercy and you shall receive mercy. You've been extremely emotional. Yes. Some tough times that happen for us, right? And watch this. It even says, blessed are the pure in heart, The pure love, that's your passion. And what does that word love mean, even in your in the context of the Hebrew characters? It means lamed and bit. That means the teachings of the great shepherd and having the heart, right? Or the one who is the son who comes out the right family. The teachings of the shepherd who is the son who comes out the right family. So he said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see Elohim. You're not going to see him if your heart's not right. Thank you, Jungle, for the love. Appreciate it, right? For they shall see him. When I see his face, prerequisite then to seeing his face is your heart pure. Have you gone through a purification process? Verse 9, he even says, blessed are the peacemakers. Why? For they shall be called the children of Elohim. See, they're trying to be peaceful and trying to just hold on to things or whatever. And they're saying, man, and you got the other people, man, they always bringing up stuff, locking people up, telling people this, telling people that or whatever. He said, man, if you can find a way to create peace, which is shalom, right? Yara shalom, right? That's a city of peace, right? Which, by the way, Shalom was the place that Abraham gave the tithe to Melchizedek, which Yashvah is through the order of. So Yashvah, David, right? David and all these people that are coming, Yashvah, son of David, David coming through as far as dealing with the generation somebody was asking about earlier. 14 times 3. What do I mean by that? It's 14 generations to get from Abraham to David, 14 generations to get from David to captivity, 14 generations go from captivity to Yashvah, right? 42 generations in total, right? The sun, something going constantly through this, right? And in all these things that are happening and that are being processed and that we're going through, right? He says that we got to get to a place of coming to peace. And if we can make peace, then that's what makes you, that's what will have you called, right? Invited to be. The word called means invited to be. So that will help you to be invited to be what? The children of Elohim. That word called, it's kletos right there. It means to be invited to be. You said, what if they're trying to learn and expand? But I'm sorry, I no shade. I just don't comprehend which part. Learn and expand. If they're trying to learn and expand, what? Past the teaching, or they don't know any better, or if somebody's trying to tell you to be better. I'm not sure exactly which direction we're going. So then Matthew chapter 5, verse 10 comes behind that and says what? Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Even when you get persecuted, as long as it's for what? Righteousness' sake. What does righteousness mean? Right, lawful standing, or right, legal standing. Much love to you too, Sister Beverly. Appreciate it. Okay. Well, as far as the people who are that we trust to be moderators, they are people that we trust for a reason. And there's a lot of different stuff that happens. And so I guess like you might feel like you have a thing on it or whatever, and maybe you do or whatever, but I trust the moderators to do what they do. So if the moderators come on, they're trying to correct something, or sometimes it turns into other things, right? Then they have been on this, some of them journey with us for years now, even before I was on TikTok. So yeah, they're doing what we trust them to be able to do. But thank you so much for, I guess, trying to moderate the moderators. But no shade, no offense towards you. There's more that goes to it. That's why this is Kofi underscore 43. We actually have another one called Kofi underscore 44, because people come on here and they lie. Literally, somebody just did lie about what we did, and now I'm having to talk to legal on TikTok to be able to make sure that TikTok is put back in their place and make sure that they stop trying to mess with us. Because somebody lied on here, they like what we were talking about, so they lied and said that we were showing things that were nude. So we look for certain indicators and stuff that maybe you're not looking for. But there's certain indicators we see on here where it's like, oh, that's what this person is. Or sometimes we've seen the person on here multiple times. So just know that the moderators aren't doing things at random here. And if you feel like it doesn't match what you match, it's cool. Like, that's not for everybody. No offense, right? But thank you. We appreciate it. I appreciate you looking out for others. Shows your heart. So Matthew chapter 5, verse 10, blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness, right? Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So if somebody persecutes you, a lot of people believe that when you're persecuted, they believe what? You said, so keep teaching the kingdom through others, though others sit or to be silent, break past the norm. So blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Right? So when people are frustrated with you, as long as you're doing, see, watch this, as long as I'm giving proper interpretation, as long as I'm teaching kingdom, as long as I'm just giving you what the Bible says, right? And if you have a problem with it, you don't have a problem with me, you have a problem with him. Why? Because I'm doing it for his name's sake. What does the word name mean again? Name means sham or shem. Shem means authority, right? So I'm doing it because of his authority, right? I'm just simply speaking his word, which is his authority. He authorized it. And then sake is talking about the reputation. So the name or authority and the reputation, his authority's reputation. So when I speak his authority, what he's authorized, and I'm doing it right, not from my reputation, you can go ahead, come at me. But when you're coming at me, since it's not my reputation on the line, it's his, you don't have a problem with me as much as you have a problem with him. And people get mad. They say, oh, you're saying that you're better than me. No, no, no. I'm saying literally, I've humbled myself, right? I'm meek, right? And blessed are the meek, right? So I've made myself humble. I've put myself down to earth. I'm rooted in his word, in his earth, and what he created. And since I'm rooted in that, right? If you chop down the tree, right, you're not just chopping down the tree, you're chopping down what I'm rooted into. So when you chop down the tree, you actually mess up the earth, because the earth and the tree are connected. If you chop down me, you're not chopping me down, you're chopping down the Most High, because I'm rooted in him. You're trying to chop down the kingdom because I'm rooted in him, right? Therefore the kingdom of heaven, if it's suffering violence and you're trying to take it by force, you're not trying to forcefully be against me. I'm just a representative. I'm just something rooted into this earth, rooted and grounded into this word, rooted and grounded into this journey, rooted and grounded into this way. You're messing with the wrong thing. You think you're coming against your brother or your sister or coming against this person, but you're wrestling not against flesh and blood. You're wrestling against the principality, the origin, the seed. The origin was planted in the ground. So just because you see a tree fall down or you see a stump, you think that you've done something because you stumped me, so to speak. But the reality is that you really messing with the earth. You chop down the tree, you have one less tree to give you oxygen. You messing yourself up. You ain't messing me up. You're messing yourself up. Because at the end of the day, I can be resurrected. I was surrected. You chopped me down, but I can be resurrected. You see what I'm saying? And we got to get out of this thing, right? So blessed are you, it says, when they speak, when you're persecuted, what? For righteousness' sake. You said you're all rooted, all enlightened. Are you depending on if you're in the same arats, in the same earth, in the same system? See? For example, Romans chapter 8, verse 19 says the creatures are waiting on the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. There's a difference between a creature and a son. Adoption, where you're adopted into. Well, guess what? Adoption means that somebody has to receive you and receive you and say that I will sign off that this person deserves something from me. You can be a child and not be adopted into a certain position as a child. Did you know that? Right? Like Queen Elizabeth has children. Or at least I don't know. Does she have? Let me get that straight, because I don't. Let me get that straight. Hold up. I might have just told a fib. Something in me said. Let me see that. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so Queen Elizabeth has children. She has 4 children, right? But only one is adopted into the role of being the next sovereign, so to speak. Right? She has 4 children, but only one will be adopted into that particular role. Right? And even though it's usually the firstborn, it's not guaranteed it is the firstborn. That's why now King Charles had to also make sure that he hit other criteria. He had to become a soldier at a certain age. He had to be able to speak the king, or at the time, the Queen's English, right? He had to be able to learn how to identify certain things. He had to be able to prove that he could rule over some of these territories that they had, or they would call them, not territories. That's what America calls it, some of these colonies that they still have. He had to be able to do certain things, right? And that's why Prince Henry, in order to do the stuff he's had to do those things too, he has to be adopted. So just because you're a child doesn't mean you're adopted into a certain position. So not every creature has been adopted into child. That's why it says that the creature, Romans 8:19, the creature is waiting on the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. Just because I'm a creature doesn't mean that I'm automatically a child. That's why Yahshua himself told people that you are of your father, the devil. Did he not say that? You said you're being attacked for asking a question. I don't think anybody attacked you for asking the question, but thanks. I mean, I don't know if you want to make this about you. The moderators do this with everybody, whatever. Your whole thing has been to be like, the only thing I've seen of you, like, so I haven't seen everything, but it seems like your whole thing has been to prove that like everybody's against you. Nobody's against you. We represent a culture and we make it something where everybody in here can be represented. And so if there's people on here saying and doing things that we say, hey, be careful about that because we have to be careful with this community, then that puts you in a position to where like somebody has to say, hey, you know what, if you're, so you might not be aware. If you feel like what's going on, this and that, I get it, right? And we're trying to make sure that we're better at it, and I'm trying to show example. But there's a lot of places and platforms they wouldn't either just mute you or something. A lot of times they just kick you off and say never come back. So we're trying to have conversation. I think if you can get past that one thing, so I guess your whole thing is, in all honesty, I think you're having a problem. You're saying to yourself, I can't listen anymore because anytime anybody has a question, they get muted. Problem with that is though is that I'm literally answering questions. So I think just don't assume that you're being attacked, but also don't assume that just because we're not lining up with everything that you want, that we have to either. Like this is a cultural perspective, so I'm gonna try my best to at least allow questions and stuff. Of course, question whatever you want, but we're not going to do a weird thing where it's like you have to have it exactly the way you want. I mean, if that's the case, like we can, if you want, I can try and support you if you want. Send me a DM or something, and I'll put a video out that says, "Please lift up your stuff." Please follow her so she can go on live, and you can run the live the way that you're called to live. To run it. It's not about that. So as far as that though, when you say God, right, you don't like the term that somebody's coming against you for God. God is a Germanic deity, so here we believe in Elohim. People don't know that, right? You might not be aware of that, so it's offensive for people, some people on here, to hear God. At the same time, we're trying to be better and making sure that you can say God. I see God, I know you mean Elohim, right? But that's what somebody's saying, so they're not kicking you off initially. They're trying to tell you, and it's hard to say in maybe a little snippet, right? You said you asked a question about if you get kicked off for saying God. It was a genuine question. Yeah. And I answered it before as I'm answering it right now. So I'm answering it right now. So did I answer your question as far as why somebody might have had a issue with it? And is it something that if I don't make sure that therefore now I make you feel like, so what's the problem? Like, may I ask, like, no offense, no shade, right? You can help me to be better in this instance. If we tell you that God is an incorrect way of saying Elohim, and that God actually comes more so from Germanic stuff, comes from Charlemagne, comes from different people who were into you can make God be whatever you want, comes more Druid type stuff, etc. There can be many gods, all that. That's why people try to say God has many names, which he doesn't, right? Or Elohim doesn't have many names; he has one. Gods can have all these things. So now that we've done all that, what is the actual issue, right? And if you want to forgive us, if you will, for making sure that we told you about God. You said you got lots of stuff about respect the culture. Okay, once again, so I'm explaining to you what it is about explaining the culture. So now that we've gotten past that, what is the actual issue left over, right? Like we explained the culture. I explained why. You said it can't be if you're being told not welcome. Okay. I mean, at this point, you're not actually telling me what the problem. So is your problem saying that because we didn't say, hey, say God however you want, or we didn't explain up front better for you in very small sentences? Is that your issue? Is that they did the best they could to explain something in a small sentence, and therefore, right, they did their best they could to explain something to you in a small sentence. They couldn't really explain it to you in a small sentence that well, and it came off wrong. Is that your position? Because if that's the case, forgive us. Even if you don't trust, right? Like we got to build up trust, but can you forgive that to where we can show you you can be trusted, right? So you're welcome to learn more about it if you like, or is it just a thing of, hey, I don't like the fact that you won't let me use God? Because it seems like that's off the table now. Like I'm addressing you personally, right? I trust the moderators. I have love for the moderators, of course. Okay, somebody muted her already again. I'm gonna unmute you for a second. All right, sorry about that. Hold on. right? And they're doing what they're supposed to do. Nothing against them. If I can, sometimes it doesn't let me unmute when you guys mute people. Oh yeah, it has. Yeah, because you haven't been muted permanently. I guess I can't unmute you. So sorry about that. But I mean, when you come back on, if you choose to come back on, by the way, it's up to you. But when you come back on, if you choose to come back on, it's not. It's not a thing of we're coming at you or whatever, right? Like there's a certain thing, and because people take down and because people lie about things, because literally we just had somebody lie and say that we were doing something that we weren't doing because we didn't agree with something they were saying. That's what it ultimately came down to. So they've been trained through experience, right? It's not prejudice. It's actually they literally are reporting. They've been ported and stuff before, and we've had to report and uplift it and sail somewhere else because people have tried to destroy what we're doing because there's disagreement. So if your whole thing is like to bash certain things or whatever, they're trained to deal with those things, right? So that's the reason why, and it's unfortunate because when we had the first Kofi, now we got 4 Kofi and Score 40 pages on TikTok, right? But we used to just have one, and it's unfortunate, but it's a lesson we had to learn. On that one, I used to let people say whatever they wanted, even on Kofi and Score 42. We lost that for a while, just got that back recently, but we lost that for months, had to go to legal and fight just to be able to try and get videos and stuff, and they eventually let the channel come back on. But all those things were done, because people couldn't be trusted to disagree or agree to disagree, rather. Right. And so, our focus is kingdom oriented. And if somebody's going to do something that's going to attack the kingdom, sometimes we have to make sure that we have to do things that are there. So if you're not attacking the kingdom, once again, like I think we've addressed it. So hopefully, if you're still on, I'm not sure, but hopefully, if you're still on, that's been addressed. We can move forward. There's been plenty of people who felt like that. By the way, I get it, and I'm praying about it. I'm trying my best to be better about it. We all are. Every day, we all can get better. But the reality is that I have to protect an environment while dealing with new people coming in, and that can be a tough thing to do, especially in this type of device, right? So, our goal is to make sure that we are compassionate, we are forgiving, things of that nature. Bringing us to the next question, by the way, the king, and by the way, last thing on the kingdom of heaven, make sure that you read Matthew 6:33 and 34. Matter of fact, just read all of Matthew chapter 6 if you want, but Matthew chapter 6, verses 33 and 34. Verse 33 says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of Elohim," right? Seek ye first the kingdom. Don't even seek the moderator. Don't seek me. Don't seek. It has to be the exact word. Seek first the kingdom, right? And his righteousness. And then all these things should be added unto thee. And give no thought for the morrow. Don't think about what's going to happen or how people are going to feel about you tomorrow, right? Seek first the kingdom today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. So I promise you, if you were to come back on tomorrow, if you're still on and still listening, I promise you, like I wouldn't do anything other than say, welcome back. And hopefully you do the same, but compassion and forgiveness, that was actually literally the next question that was up. So compassion and forgiveness, right? Compassion, passion, by the way. So calm is something interesting, passion is something interesting, right? Calm is something different, passion is something different than what we think. Calm is actually talking about communication, but it really is talking also really about being one, right? Communicate is talking about one way of communicate. Sorry, communication or unication even. Um, Combine is talking about bringing something together as one. So if somebody, even on the ship, if you ever been on the ship, if they say I have to calm, right? It's an emery, even interchangeable, right? But if I'm on the calm, even the word con, by the way, is technically means one. If somebody cons you, they got you to be so one with you that you kind of gave up. But calm really is talking about one, right? So if we're going to talk about compassion, it literally is meaning that we have to become one with passion. Now, passion, right, is something connected to the heart, right? Passion is literally talking about our heart. In Hebrew, passion and heart are intertwined. But passion also means suffering, right? If we're going to take it more to a newer type of etymology within the last few hundred years, passion is really dealing with the suffering, right? Passion is really dealing with what? The suffering. What is passion dealing with? Passion is dealing with the suffering. right? So when we talk about compassion, we're actually talking about becoming one with somebody suffering. That makes compassion hard for a lot of people. The passion of the Christ, what does that mean? The suffering of the Christ, right? If I'm gonna talk about my passion, I've got to deal with my suffering. If I've got to talk about my compassion, I've got to talk about becoming one with somebody suffering. That's why even for I can't remember Paul's whatever the name is. I apologize, but even for that person, when we're talking about the passion, the compassion, I'm trying to become one with your passion. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, you're telling me that we are not dealing with your heart correctly. So what am I trying to ask? Like, help me to become one with your passion. I can't have compassion if you won't allow me to become one. I can't be compassionate if I won't allow myself to become one. Right? So the compassion, right? The compassion. I have to be able to have a place to where I can become one with your passion, with your suffering. We often think of passion just for I'm passionate. Well, passionate also means I'm willing to suffer through it. If I'm compassionate, it means I'm willing to suffer through and become one with somebody suffering. Their burden can become my burden. See, but we talked about this before. I only pick up burdens to lay burdens down, right? So if you want me to be compassionate, I'm going to be compassionate, but there comes a point to where how long do you want me to pick it up? Now I'm long suffering, but if the goal is just to hold on to passion, just to hold on to the suffering, there comes a certain point too to where we can't hold on to it to where it drains us, right? Like I get what you're going through, and I will hang in there. I'll be a long suffering because even the beginning of the word suffer means we choose to suffer through or choose to go through the passion of it, right? But there also is a time where we say, all right, I'm going through this so that at some point I will get past it. That's the ultimate goal. And it might take us 20 years, right? But fine, let's make sure that for 20 years, we got a 20-year plan then. It should get better. There should be some signs. There should be some goals. There should be some monuments that we pass or something that I can look at from time to time, be able to look side to side and be able to say, oh, okay, I see I'm like, we're getting better in this compassion. If I'm going to become one with your passion, then we've got to work towards becoming whole together. You see what I'm saying? So the compassion, becoming one with somebody's passion, is very hard for a lot of people because you've got to choose to go through suffering. When your little baby, right, your little baby girl, your little baby boy, they stub their toe and they fall over, they start crying, you are extremely compassionate. You know why? Because you've chosen to become one with them because you see them as somebody worthy of becoming one with and to share their passion. Thanks for the love and how you doing, Yehuda? Thanks for being on. You feel like that person's worthy of being one with. That's your baby. So since your baby is is crying, you say, I'll be compassionate. I'll become one with their passion, one with their suffering. Oh, baby, that's okay. You almost sound like you're crying, right? You don't say, oh, you all right? Right? Oh, baby, that's okay. You all right? Can we let's lift you up? Let's do you're talking about compassion, becoming one with their passion, becoming one with their suffering. Because you've chosen. Now you say they're more worthy of it because they're your family. And I would not necessarily disagree altogether, but that's the reason why you're compassionate to some and not compassionate to others. You can be compassionate to somebody who's hated you, somebody who wouldn't feed you. If you're in a position to where you can feed them, you can still be one with their passion. You know what I mean? You got to be their friend, right? I think that's what kind of mistake is that's made, right? Even when we talk about forgiveness, what does the word forgive? Forgive means before I do it, I give you the right to do it. Before you sin, I give you the right as a human being to sin. Before you mess up, I already know you will, so I forgive you. Forgiveness is not reactionary. Forgiveness is something that is a pre-active response. Forgiveness presumes. Forgiveness means I presume that you will fall. Before you do it, I already do. I already give you the right. It's a compound word. Take out the letter E, forgive. Put it together. Right. So if I compassion and forgiveness, as the question was brought up, then it means that I am willing to be one with your suffering. Why? Because before you do the right, before you even mess up, I've already given you the right to have a human experience and sin. Now, the thing that really messes us up though is that we believe because people want to believe because you have compassion and you can forgive, They also want you to believe that that means what? They want you to believe that that means what? That you fully trust them. And see, that's not necessarily the case. This is the problem that a lot of people have in their, and even in their marriage and stuff like that. When I talk to them, we do our marital coaching, one-on-one coaching, life coaching, stuff like that. A lot of people have a problem when I say compassion or forgiveness. You'll hear somebody be compassionate. Forgive me. If you forgive me, let it go. They can let it go as far as not holding it over your head, but it doesn't mean you've built up trust again yet. Thank you, Alton. Appreciate it. Right. Like so when you forgive somebody, right, don't think it means trust. It doesn't say for trust. It says forgive. I gave you the right to mess up, right? But it doesn't mean that I give you the right to come back all the way to where you are. We got to work on restoration now. I forgave you, but there's still restoration process. Yeah, yeah, forgive, not trust unconditionally. That's not what we asking. You hear what I'm saying? Like, I forgive you. I forgive. Before you did it, I gave you the right as a human being to do it. I even might be willing to a certain extent to go through the compassion. The compassion is why I'm one with your suffering. I'm willing to go and suffer through this thing with you if you really want to change. But while you're changing, realize that, hey, you had this level of trust. And when you did what you did, it was a withdrawal, right? Your bank account might not be zero, it might not be negative, but hey, there's a difference between you had $300 worth of compassion up in this piece, and now you only got $20 left. You can't afford the same thing with me that you did before. See, before you could afford with $300 worth of trust, you could have said, hey, I want to go ahead and do this. And I say, okay, well, that's only going to take, even if it's a lot of our account, hey, that costs 250, but it's in your account. Let's go. I got your back. See, now you want to do the same $250 move and you're waiting for me to trust. But when you went ahead and messed up, what you did was you took money out of the trust. And so when you took money out of the trust, you're asking for a $250 move, but all you got is $20 worth of credit. I can't roll with you this time. Or if you ask me to roll with you, don't expect me to not have an attitude or be extremely upset. Because now if I give you that, that means you negative 230 in credit, which means you're going to have to build up a whole bunch more trust. And next time you ask me for something, I'm not going to be able to give you anything because you already paying penalties and fees. And if you can't catch up on the penalties and fees, which are way worse than just being a little bit negative, now you 230 negative. Well, guess what? Eventually, the bank has to let you go. You're cool with the principal in the bank, but for some reason, your relationship, you're not. You don't want to go negative in your account with the bank. Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you. Right? You don't want to go negative in the bank, but you go negative in your relationship. You know that if you go negative with the bank, there's penalties, there's fees, right? But you go negative in your relationship and you ain't looking for penalties and fees. You just say forgive it. But see, look, it's okay, fine. You messed up. We were at 300. You went to go ahead. You spent it down. You messed up. There's still 20. But guess what? You still got to build up the account again, right? You still got to build up the trust. You took money from the trust. You got to put something back in. Just because it's a trust and there ain't no taxes on it doesn't mean that you still don't need to put money back in. Oh, hallelujah. That's a word. Just because you put money in the trust doesn't mean that you can't accidentally take some money out. If you going down the street, you riding, you traveling, right? And all of a sudden, it wasn't your fault, but a deer comes out and hits. That's an accident. That's okay. But guess what? Even though it was an accident, you still got to spend some money to get that car fixed. So you go get your car fixed, right? Now you got less money in your account. Even if you got insurance, guess what? The insurance rate might even go up on you. They might even say you need to pay more. Why? To make up for what we just paid out. And they don't even do it in a righteous fashion. I'm just using that as an example, right? So you can be in a position if you're not careful to where you've had some accidental things. Things happen that we're not aware. You're gonna be in your marriage. Things will happen that's not even of your own doing, right? Like sometimes things take from your account. There's not even something that you try to be a part of. How you doing, Sister Felicia? If I didn't say so already, right? Some things, and how you doing? I'm sorry, is it Amadi? That's Amadi. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correct. All right, but there are things that'll happen in your account that you weren't trying to happen. You weren't trying to have somebody in your family get sick for a few months and they couldn't work. That drains the account. You're gonna have to do something to make sure you putting in was being drained out. There's energy being lost. You didn't assume or presume that somebody was gonna get locked up. That wasn't something that was in there. And now you got to readjust everything because somebody in the family, who knows who it is, but somebody in the family dealing with this. You didn't know that you were going to find out that somebody had autism. Those things take out of the account. What are you going to do to put something positive back in? I'm not just talking about cheating. We always go straight to cheating. No, there's going to be some things that happen that's out of people's controls, right? Compassion. Are you willing to go through the suffering as one? Forgiveness. Will you forgive these things that happen before they happen? Because things will happen. This is why we went to Matthew 24. These things must happen. People will come in falsely in Yahshua's name. People will come and tell you that this is what you need to do. People will say that you're a terrible person. People will get sick. There will be pestilence. There will be sword. There will be wars. There will be rumors of war. There will be earthquakes. There will be flooding. Those are the beginning of sorrows. But verse 13 of Matthew 24 says, those that endure to the end shall be saved. Somebody say, how can I save my marriage? Endure. I know it sounds too simple, right? And I know there's more that goes to it, but hear what I'm saying, right? First of all, do you have the endurance? You take more, some of us take more pride in the fact that we will endure a 1 mile run than we will in enduring marriage. This is endurance. People say, oh, I like your marriage. I like what you and your wife do. And I like how y'all interact and all these different things or whatever. Endurance. You think that there ain't been no bad times? When COVID hit, and when we stopped losing the amount of money that was coming in, because we were blessed, we were very blessed. We've been very blessed since the beginning, right? But we hit a hard time. And when that happened, we made a decision before we were able to completely get away from 9 to 5 and side hustles and things like that and only do things we felt like doing as far as contracts and stuff. Before all that happened, guess what? Like we went through some stuff where we looked at each other. We said, if we're gonna make it through this, we in this no matter what. We don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know. We might lose. We might lose some land. We might lose, but we've decided we're gonna be together. And sure enough, as soon as that kicked in, that endurance kicked in. We ain't been the same since, and we live just as well. Sometimes, if not better, we do other things that we weren't doing when we were making a whole lot more money. A whole lot. Like we don't really make that much, but we eat. We don't make that much, but we travel. Right? Endure. Yeah, okay. If somebody's putting their hands on you, yes. Right? Yes, there's levels to it. But what I'm saying is there's some people that won't endure somebody lost a job. The number one reason for divorce is money. If that's your number one reason for divorce, that means that was your number one reason for getting together. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, if somebody putting their hands on you, we're having a different conversation. What I'm saying is this: I deal with a lot of people that are trying to get away because somebody won't pay, somebody can't get a job to pay bills. And I'm sorry, I know that. But you signed up. This is what y'all signed up for. I didn't write your vows out. You wrote out these vows, or you agreed to the vows that were said, and you said for better, for worse, for sickness and health, for richer, for poorer, until death do us part. Why did COVID come and take the divorce rate in the United States of corporation all the way up to 75%? I mean, sickness ain't supposed. We said sickness and health. Why did COVID immediately was COVID came and tested y'all? COVID came for a lot of people and punked people. COVID was like, oh, you said that you about to be, you said sickness and health. I got you. Let's see. Right? That fourth horseman came with authority, right? Because we're not what that's what I'm saying is compassion and forgiveness, right? It showed where your emotional bank account really was. There really was no trust, is what I'm trying to say. We hadn't, not only was there not a trust, but we had not put money into the trust. So here came COVID. You only had $200 in your account. COVID said you're gonna need 500 to deal with this, and you were so busy living paycheck to paycheck or spending stuff on stuff you didn't need. You didn't go into the trust. So now, when you needed to trust each other more than any other time, you didn't have anything. A lot of people don't go into marriage with trust. A lot of people go into marriage because you've been dating and you say, hey, we enjoy each other's company long enough. You make me feel nice and everything. And then you get into your marriage, and then here come a tough time. You say, oh, I didn't think marriage was what it's supposed to be. What you thought was going to be perfect. You got two imperfect people trying to become about one perfect mission. Yeah, it was a girl told the guy she wouldn't marry him because she didn't like the ring. There was another girl that got mad at the guy because what was it? He bought her a car, but it was a used car and it was a car, and she was like, I don't like that and blah blah this and that. But you got a car, baby girl. You on the bus? He taking you off the bus and putting you to where you ain't got to worry about the bus. You know, guys out there, well, her body just don't look the same way as it. You. So let me get this straight. You married your wife because you thought her body was going to be the same. Did you not get the memo? By the way, even if you have a wife whose body, as far as looks go, my wife is extremely sexy, right? You can't tell me nothing less, right? Sexiest woman on the planet, greatest woman on the planet. Yeah, I have a comprehension though that my wife's body might change if she has my baby. I have a comprehension that my wife is, and I, as we both get older, by the way, my body ain't the same either. Humble yourself, you know, compassion, going through one suffering, both y'all getting old. Forgive the fact that, yeah, before y'all get old, give her the right to get old. Compassion, one passion, forgiveness, like compassion, one suffering, forgiveness. Before they do it, give them the right to do it. We come into the marriage, we're not even ready to invest that initially. Where's the initial investment in the trust? Thanks for being part of the community, user 835 and King FM. Right? Where's the initial investment in the trust? Yeah, people covet Babylonian ways, Talmudic ways. People covet uh, um, romantic ways. I want somebody who's going to be romantic. Romantic means Roman antics. You don't want none of that. Roman people, women were trophy wives, and and it was all right to have a boyfriend and give more attention to him sexually than you did your wife. And then you were just supposed to make sure she had your child. And you were supposed to, if you made enough money, you were supposed to have a mistress. Now here we go, all these people talking about all these brothers talking about they taking the red pill, right? They taking the red pill and saying, yeah, you need to have all these wives and this and that or whatever. By the way, even if you believe that you're supposed to have multiple wives or multiple girlfriends out there, you can just dismiss them whenever and throw them away. Only guys that are super rich can do that anyways, and they got to look for girls that basically ain't worth nothing mentally yet. They look for girls they can take advantage of mentally to be able to make that happen. Once again, what are you rooted in? What's the origin? So you wrestling against flesh and blood. How many girls you can get? What's the origin of that? You know how many men who could get? I'm telling you from not from experience personal, but talking to guys because I never was that guy. I don't even think I ever had no game for that or whatever. Because girls like the bad boys and all that stuff. That's kind of the community I grew up in. So a lot of girls they thought I was sweet, but they never thought that I would amount to anything that they thought the bad boys would, right? And so that's my kind of experience with it. But a lot of people don't realize when you talk to those bad boys and things like that, and even if they're successful in life, guess what? When they get to be older and older and older, they'll tell you, yeah, man, all that stuff was worthless, man. Like at the end of the day, I needed somebody that was down for me. Like they'll tell you that straight up. Yeah, I needed somebody that was down for me. That's all I really wanted. Same thing that you got in your marriage. Like that's what I really needed. Like I had all the different women. I did all this stuff. I went to all these different places. I had people give me all this. All these girls. Thank you, Tavares. Appreciate it. Had all these girls give me this, that, et cetera, the third. And he said, man, at the end of it, for real, I wish I just had marriage. I wish I just had one woman that was down for me. Right? He said, I wish I had invested trust in somebody because I really just want somebody who I can trust. I wish I had invested in trust. And remember, even legally speaking, lawfully speaking, right? A trust is something to where you're saying that I'm going to take the onus off of the individual. See, if I have a trust, it means that it's not owned by the person, but I can actually trust. I can put money and stuff into what I trust. So when we say in Yahweh we trust, see a lot of churches nowadays have become LLCs and trusts, right? And so now it's hard because Yahweh is not who we trust in. We trust in the actually assembly, right? So we don't worship in a proper fashion a lot of times because we have this version of trustees and this and that and all those other things, right? How you doing? Always blessed. But when I'm saying I trust in the Most High, I'm saying that I'm invested in Him. Therefore, when you look at me I'm not who you're looking at. I'm invested in him. So when I say I trust in the Most High with my marriage, I'm trusting in his ways and his will. I'm giving direction, but I know my wife has to lay down the law. I'm making sure that I love my wife with the same passion, right? The same suffering, even the same compassion that the Most High had for me or Yeshua had for me when he died for me, right? At the same time, I'm trusting that will I have passion in will not submit to necessarily me, the man, but will submit to the mission that I have because the mission is greater than the man. You know, there's that term, the Michelin man. There's a lot of people that don't have Michelin men; they have missionless men, and that's the problem. How does she trust in you when you're missionless? She can't trust in you. She's not even really supposed to trust in you. That's why she's testing you. She's testing you to see if you can prove who you are. But you got to have a mission. You got to be so mission oriented that even when she's testing you, you realize, well, baby, that's fine. Test me all you want because I'm gonna have a testimony for you at the end, right? That's when we talked about yesterday, I believe it was, be strong, or maybe it was Saturday, 4 hours of power. Be strong and show yourself a man, following his ways, so that everybody that sits upon, every son that comes behind me that sits upon my throne will be somebody that's great. See, she can trust in that mission. When you saying her son will be blessed because her son will be exactly the thing, it will do the things that you did to be able to help you to increase, it'll help them to increase and the next generation to increase. She can trust in that mission. But when she says, babe, what you thinking? And you say, I don't know. Right? How there's it's difficult for compassion because we got to suffer through the same thing. But I asked you, what are we about to suffer through? What are you thinking? And you said you don't know. I could forgive right? So I can know before we get there, I already need to have in my mind, okay, he gonna be trying to do this, so he probably gonna fall short in this. He probably gonna feel weak on these certain days. He probably gonna need this type of food because his body might be giving out. He probably gonna need words of encouragement because he's gonna be dealing with all these people who's out here discouraging him. But if you don't give her no mission, then how can she forgive what's coming up in the mission? And sisters, if you don't give him no help, how he gonna be compassionate towards you? I need you to give me affection. You to help me. Do you know that anybody, as a man, anybody who will give me, that's why you even got to be careful, brothers, to make sure that you only dealing with your wife, right? Because you will get caught up in some stuff. Why? Because anybody that really gives you affection is somebody that you're willing to do what? You're willing to die for, to a certain extent. You're willing to sacrifice for her. You're willing to love. My wife gets affection from me more than any other person. Matter of fact, I'm very much so to myself, right? I have to even make sure I ratchet it up for my son and stuff like that. I'm very much so to myself, but I go out of my way on purpose to really give her affection, to be into things that she's into and stuff. And I've grown to where even now it's a natural thing for me to give her the affection that's necessary, even though I need to get greater every day. But I'm just saying it's more natural for me. Why? Because she's giving me so much respect and respected the mission so much that now I have to do what? I'm compassionate and I forgive more, right? I give her the right to do certain things before she does it that I won't forgive other people of in the same way. You know why? Because she's earned it through the respect she's given, right? So I give affection to her because she helps me to meet the mission. See, people don't want to hear that because then that's that romantic stuff. The romantic stuff says, man, you should just give me affection no matter what, right? And I'm not saying I shouldn't only give you affection on the days that you give me respect. What I'm saying is, if you respect me, affection is natural. That's the way it helps. You said keep it in the bedroom, and I'm not just talking about in the bedroom. Although I'm fine with how that exists in my life too, but I'm not talking about just the bedroom, right? I'm talking about affection. Affection ain't just in the bedroom. Affection is, did you call her up while you were in the middle of your job experience to make sure that you said that, hey, even in the middle of my job experience, my experience of talking with you on the phone right now is more important. See, when you have that experience with her more, then you can start thinking about the bedroom. Right? Her bedroom experience is based upon the affection you give her throughout the day. Affection ain't necessarily mean, hey, pull your pants down. Right? Out of respect for you and the affection you give her, she'll go to Victoria's Secret. Right? That's why she goes to Victoria's Secret. She goes to Victoria's Secret because she says, man, this brother done gave me so much affection. I'm gonna let him see something special. That's why she goes. She ain't going to Victoria's Secret because of lack of affection or not, or to get ready for affection. She goes to Victoria's Secret because you gave her affection. You see what I'm saying? Compassion and forgiveness. See, but I got to be willing to go through the suffering, right? And by the way, brothers, I get it. Sisters, I'm not trying to say anything bad here. Thanks for being part of the community. Is it epinephrine? Okay. Thanks for being on. But real talk, I'm not trying to say anything bad to y'all, sister. But guess what, brothers? Sometimes I know the way that we speak as men, it feels like you suffering through to just have a conversation because you don't talk the same way women do and you don't learn their love language. So I get it. Sometimes even you feel like that's suffering, but you know what? What she's, you know how like if you listen to your wife and she talks and talks and talks, or your girlfriend or whatever your situation is, and she talks, or even your mother, your sister, your daughter, like sometimes you need to learn in different areas how to do this as well. When she finishes talking, guess what she says? She'll say, so even if she's finishes tearing you up, guess what she'll say at the end of it? Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. And even though she carved you up, she'll even look for a hug. You know why? The hug is the physical manifestation of the affection you already gave. She'll even give you a, she's looking for a hug now. Why? There was a physical that's a physical manifestation of what you already gave. You were listening in, you were supportive, you hung in there. I know you don't want to hear this stuff, but because you listened and you gave affection, now let me give you the physical manifestation. See, I'm not talking about when I say affection in this context that we're talking about, I'm talking about the affection that you dote upon her is what you do all day. Then yeah, the bedroom counts too. And she'll want the bedroom. And I know different people are built different ways. I'm not saying every single person acts the same way, but I'm saying, yeah, she'll want the bedroom more. Matter of fact, there'll be times you'll be surprised, like, whoa, I wasn't ready for all that, right? Because you used to, I gotta pursue, I gotta pursue, I gotta pursue an affection and see how much less you have to pursue in the bedroom. You'd be surprised. I'm not saying that we don't want to pursue at all. That's part of the, the great part of it. But I'm just telling you, right? Compassion. Are you willing to suffer through? She speaks different. She speaks outwardly. You speak inwardly. She speaks outwardly so she can feel something inside. You think inwardly so you can express outside. You got to suffer each other, right? You got to learn the love language, right? I'm just talking about affection. See, affection is not, hey, make sure that you feeling up on her. There's some women that's their love language. If they like physical touch, then she'll want to hear. But even that, give her, work on that. If your whole thing is to go straight towards making sure you put the hand in the back pocket, that might not be the first move to always do. But maybe just putting your hand on the back of her neck, even those things. That's not bedroom stuff. You can do that in public, right? You said your relationship is the opposite. You speak outward, she's internal. Okay, well, same principle reversed. So when she's not really expressing things outwardly, right, then it doesn't mean she's not listening. And when you're expressing things outwardly, it doesn't mean that she has to respond. And then when she does respond, since she doesn't express outwardly that often, then guess what you do? You say, okay, like when she does respond, I need to shut up and not respond at all. Because if she's going to respond outwardly, right? Like if she's going to actually take time out, she never says anything, but now she's talking. I need to be quiet and let her talk and not say anything outwardly, right? Because she should be because she respects my little outburst, right? So then I need to respect her when she gets her chance. And then I need to take and digest it because she might not open up like that again for a long time. So she literally gave me everything. And she's also probably a person, since she does that, she's probably a person that's like, I told you this once, I don't need to tell you again. Why? Because she doesn't say anything outwardly that often. So when she says it once, she's like, hey, respect what I say, take note of what I say, because I'm probably not going to say it again. Oh, thank you, Southern Core. Appreciate it. Right. So we got to be in these positions. Thanks for being part of the community, Honey Jazz. So it's about that position, compassion and forgiveness. Compassion and forgiveness. Calm one, passion, suffering. Are you willing to be one with somebody's suffering? Right. So watch this. If somebody's an inward thinker and barely ever expresses himself outwardly, then guess what? Like compassion, I'm going to become one with your passion. So I also have to realize too, that means when you're suffering, you probably don't tell me that often. That's why it's an outburst too. You ever notice that? Right. That's why it's an outburst sometimes too. It's like, okay, I'm not saying I'm like that. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say, okay, I'll let it go. I'll let it go. Then you start seeing me maybe mumble or something like that, but I'm still trying my best to hold it in because I don't know how to say it out loud yet. But it's starting to get there. So you're like, oh, you mumbling under your breath all the time. But you got somebody mumbles under their breath, it's because they've been thinking about it for a while, and now it's starting to percolate. Right? They'll be like, okay, I'm almost there. I'm almost there, but I really don't want to say anything because I'm probably gonna say it the wrong way. They're trying their best to address it, and then when they come out though, right? Like it's an out. It might be an outburst because it's been building up, but it's how they felt. It might have taken them a week to get to that point. You could do it right away, but it might have taken them a week to be able to finally get out. So it comes out like that. And so once again, forgive. You're in a relationship with somebody, be willing to suffer with them. So they might be suffering. You might not even be aware of the fact they've been suffering because they're trying their best to not put the suffering on you. Yeah, it spews like a volcano. They're trying their best to make sure that you don't have to walk around trying to, the floor is lava, everything you do, right? That's so their way of making sure you don't have to feel like the floor is lava. They shut up. They just say, okay, like, I'll deal with this. I'm gonna deal with it. I don't like this. I don't know how to say it. Last time I tried to say it, they blew up on me. Every time then they start using language, right? Every time I say it, every time I do, every time, blah, blah, right? Because they're like, in their mind, they've been having an argument with you for like a week, but they're not ready to articulate the argument. In your mind, you said it and you moved on. In their mind, they're like, they trying to figure this thing out. You said state how you feel in the beginning to avoid outbursts. That's something that we should learn to do a lot more. Yes, but it's not necessarily a bad thing if you're not like state how you feel and make sure that you're in a position to say it in love. If you can't say it in love yet, you might have to wait later on, right? But we also have to learn love languages. You'll have less outbursts. You said not the floor is lava. Yeah, that's how people be feeling. I've had that said to me before, and I know men like I know me. I'm one of those people, like where it's like I do the same thing. Got to be on time. Got to be here. Got to be there. Right. So a lot of time around me, I know a lot of people. Even my own child, you'd be like, "Up, dad, blah, blah, blah." So I've had to learn, and I'm still learning. I'm not there yet all the way. I have not arrived, but I press towards the mark of the high calling, and this is a higher calling. And so communicating is part of the high calling. And if I can communicate with strangers, I should be better communicator with my own family than strangers, right? So, and oftentimes it's easier even for us to do that. We can communicate with people we don't know because we don't have to lay down with those people. We don't have to be reminded of them. We don't have to bring them up. Even if they do us wrong, we don't have to bring them up that often in our mind. You know, you said you knew what I was talking about, Tavares. Yeah. And we're trying to use absolutes. It gives no room for improvement. Yeah. Right. So those are all great points, right? But it's that compassion, that forgiveness. I'm compassionate enough, right? One passion, one suffering. So if somebody finally has an outburst, first things first, this is what you got to say to yourself. Why are they having the outburst? Like, what's really going on? The yelling is not what's really going on. The suffering is what's really going on. And because they didn't think they could be one with me in the suffering, I'm going to show them I'll be one with them. I might not let them yell at me for hours. I might not let them yell at me, for days. I might not let them yell at me regularly. But okay, this one time, they got to get this out. I can see even emotionally how their emotions are. I see them, you know, like I was watching Kevin Hart the other day with my wife. We were laughing because he's talking about his rappers rap and they get more into it. Their hands get higher and higher, right? But you see that with sisters too, right? If a sister start talking, right, and her hands start coming up here, you like, okay, you like, it's about to explode, right? Or if you hear a mother, right? There's an old Sinbad joke, right? If you ever hear a mother and she says, "Don't let me tell you one more time. Don't test me." A lot of people who are growing up, we be looking at the children like, please, because we know she this close. She's telling like I'm this close, right? But we know the love language, right? Learn the love language, learn the cues, you know. How you doing, Calm? Thanks for being on. So like, don't test me, don't try me. I told you. We ain't good. Don't touch nothing in this store. Don't act for nothing in this store. We going to get this, and that's it. When she's telling you, hey, and so like, but people give tells like that. People communicate, right? Even we're strangers, and we see it in a stranger, and we're like, ooh, and we be trying to tell the child with our eye language. Like the children be looking around, like, not when they look at us, and we be like, We be looking at them like, please, your behind is on the line, right? And I'm gonna have to act. I'm gonna sit here and have to be nervous when you getting your behind whipped next to me, because I probably can't tell her nothing while she whipping your behind. Like, please get this right. You be trying to tell them like out the corner of your eye, like, please, please, for the sake of your behind, for the sake of everybody in this store, please, just listen, right? So sometimes you even with the mama, like, I don't know if y'all ever had this experience. Somebody child be wilding out, and mama ain't looking, but the mama gonna be messed up, and you be looking at the child, and you just kind of give a hint, or you try to like make a little noise or something, and like let the child know, like, you about to get it. Even as an adult, like, we fall in line even as adults, because we know that communication, we know what's coming up next, we know like this ain't gonna end the way you think it's gonna be. Yeah, I told you time and time again, all those things, like, we know, hey, you need to get this together. Like, little sis, please, little bruh, please, your mom. Like, I don't even know your mama. I've never talked to your mama, but I know mama's speech. I know mama language. I know her body language. I've been there, done that. And I'm telling you, like, I'm trying to tell you without telling you, like, this ain't really, like, even with my own child, sometimes, like, I try to give him a hint, like, like, we both about to get it if you don't get yourself together, right? Like, and she probably do the same thing. Like, your father don't like that, please. I ain't trying to hear his mouth to that, but we do that for everybody else. Compassion. We have the ability to be one and realize suffering is about to happen, and we don't want to see that person suffer. But for some reason, our personal relationships, we don't have that same switch. Right. And once again, though, in all honesty, it's because we have a dating mentality, a romantic mentality, that we dated each other. So everybody, when they were dating, they had a time when you would click that off. Right. There was an expiration date. I only got to see you up until 8. After 8, we went out 6 to 8. It was a nice experience. Drop you off. You have a great night. Even if you sleeping with each other. Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna go to work. I'll see you in a couple days. I'll answer the phone, but I ain't got to be around you. You got that experience where you can click that off. I don't have to suffer with you all the time. But when you're in a relationship where you need compassion, you need to make sure you can click that light stays on. And if it stays off, make sure nobody else is in the house, because that's your personal time. Take personal time where you don't have to be compassionate and you can just focus on self. That's cool. But when you're around everybody else, you got to find a way to make sure that stays on. You got to pay that electric bill. You got to make sure that energy, that spirit, that current keeps flowing. And it's going to help you when you put compassion with forgiveness, because now before they do it, you've given them the right to do it. If somebody messes up in that's when you lose trust. So once again, invest in that trust. Invest in that trust. Invest in that trust. I believe that's all I have. I'm up, right? The Genesis 1 and 2 question, once again, I apologize for that. We do have a whole series called Genesis Revisited. If you get into that, you'll be able to comprehend more. I was saying about generation versus generations. Long story short, though, just real brief synopsis on that. Real brief, literally, like a couple minutes max. Might even be a minute, might just be a minute. If you look at Genesis chapter 1, you'll talk about the generation. If you look at Genesis chapter 2, you'll see the generations. Really, Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, because really, even though we have chapters and weird places, remember the original Bible, there were no chapters, there were no verses. So you have generation that goes from Genesis chapter 1 all the way to Genesis chapter 2, verse 3. From Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, you're dealing with generations. So you have to realize that there's a generation, earth being created, and here are the generations coming out of that creation. And you'll be able to read it in a different manner, right? You'll be able to read the generation, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 through Genesis chapter 2, verse 3 differently than you'll be able to read Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, generations, right? It's two different stories. Matter of fact, you'll see God in English. It's saying Elohim, Elohim, Elohim. But when you get to Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, it starts saying Lord God, Lord God, Lord God, which means Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh Elohim. Amen. And thank you. Always blessed. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for being on. We appreciate you. Thank you for everybody who's part of 4 Hours of Power. Thank you for everybody who's been part of what we're doing. Thank you, everybody who was on Shabbat Shalom service on Saturday. Thank you for those who've been doing early Rise of Bible study session with us. Thank you to those who got up early, been getting up early with us for a while now. We're going to keep doing it at least through October 13th, October 14th. We'll reevaluate to see if we're going to keep it going or not. But getting up and do our early riser, our workout sessions with each other, all that great stuff. We've been having different people come on, more people. We've had some brothers coming on from time to time too. So it's been great. and we just been doing a little workout. Today we had like a little light workout, but we were able to do some stuff as far as energy. And by the way, when you guys are doing this stuff with us, let us know if this is cool. Send us if you can. Those who've been coming on, send us a text, send us an email. Let us know what's going on. We don't really have feedback, and because we're doing it through Zoom, there's certain things that we can and can't do, especially as far as to the music and stuff, which is it's even hard for us to do stuff to the beat. So just let us know. How this is going for you, if this is something that is working for you, things like that, things that you like to work on, maybe some of the exercises that are coming up, maybe certain things that you're trying to reach. If you're somebody has to do stuff from the modified position, has our modified positions been doing well for you, etc. Also too, to let it be known, we probably do some recording of this on Zoom as well. I said in the beginning we wouldn't, but we kind of want to see our progress. Now, if you don't want yourself to be on the recording, then don't worry about it. We're not going to necessarily make sure the whole world has to see this per se, but it is something we would like to see as far as progress, where we started and where we got to. So you can easily fix that by just making sure you don't show your face in the video, and it'll just be us. So, but if you'd like to be able to be part of something like that, let us know. If we don't have your email address, by the way, classes are coming up soon. So not today, but next Monday, we're supposed to start classes. Stuff like Sovereignty 1, Sovereignty 2, Hebrew characters, possibly if we get enough interest, basic Hebrew, natural medicine 1, solution from the Black perspective, classes on marriage, Black history, herbalism 1, which is the next step from introduction to herbalism, all these different things that we have. So if you guys can tell us, what you like, this and that or whatever, we can make sure. But also, if you have more questions, let us know about them as well. And if you haven't got the link to be able to fill out what it is you want to take, we can go ahead and try and send that out to you as well. So let us know. We still got a little bit of time, and even if you missed the first couple of weeks, something like that, you can still fit in. And remember, it's donation oriented and stuff like that as well. So we're not charging you an arm or a leg or anything for those things, and those things just go to kingdom building. We haven't mentioned it as often. We're still doing YLP 83, Yah's Land Project. Our goal is still, even if we don't hit it in October, our goal is still to make sure that we get this land ASAP. And so we're excited about that. We're grateful for that. And if you'd like to be a part of that, part of the mission, let us know. Don't forget about Thursday Rising Prayer. We'll be back on tonight on Kofi_42 in the evening session. So if you're joining us for the first time or you're not used to this, we usually do Kofi_43 and the Risings at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. Then we do, and that's every day. On weekdays, on weeknights specifically, we do Kofi_42 at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, except on Wednesdays. Wednesdays are our day off. And even on Wednesdays, we have our conference call line, the same conference call line we use for our prayer service on Thursday. On Wednesdays, we have somebody come and give a word. And we're actually going to start make sure we're recording those as well. So even if you miss those, we'll start making sure that you can, you won't be able to see anything, obviously, but you'll be able to hear a word. We'll put it on YouTube and even on Patreon. So if you want to catch up on those things. All right. But thank you all. We appreciate you. We honor you. Those who are part of the Hebrew Holy Day Committee, we're going to meet together on Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern New York time. That reminds me also, September 25th, 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time on Zoom, we'll be doing the Hebrew Holy Day of the Feast of Trumpets. So join us for that. We have Minister Tamara is going to be giving the excellent word. Minister Anais is going to be reading some scriptures through. And we have many different other people that will be involved in various ways. And September 23rd through the 25th, especially on the 24th, if you're in South Florida, let us know. We're coming down that way. We want to make sure that we have a great time with you. We're trying to finalize a place to be able to meet up and have some fun at. We got some children that are going to be there as well. So if you have children, you want them to come, we got stuff that'll be just for them to be able to run around, as well as us be able to chill out as adults and stuff. We'll try to work out food, if we're going to do potluck, or if we're just going to, say everybody bring your own stuff, whatever. Who knows? Maybe we might be able to provide something. We'll talk about it. I'll talk to my wife about it. Don't forget, Detroit is around the corner too, October 14th through the 16th. It'll be here before you know it. So those who are going, or those who are even in the D, we look forward to talking to y'all October 14th through the 16th. We got a lot of great stuff. Remember, the theme for that is look beyond what you see. So I'm very excited about what you guys are going to get out of that. And we have some things specifically put together. Baptism is going to be during that date as well. And I did get some people in Florida said that, hey, when you come down there, can we be baptized? We got you. We'll make it happen. Amen. We'll make it happen. All right. Oh, amen, Sister Deborah. I didn't even notice that. Thank you. Yep, we got the 30,000 likes on TikTok because of you guys today. So thank you all so very much, and thank everybody who was on. So that being said, this ends our Q&A week. We'll still be on. I'm not sure what the topic will be tomorrow, but we'll be on, and we look forward to talking to you guys. Patreon Kingdom will be on tomorrow, 7:00 p.m. Eastern New York time. And today, as far as calls and stuff, if I do or don't answer, just know that we got somebody going through some really, really tough times, and we'll give you more information if we're allowed to or as we're allowed to. But we got somebody going through some really tough times, so just pray, and lift each other up in prayer, and pray for burdens to be lifted. I'll just say that. But we got somebody going through some really tough times, so I'm going to be available for that person, at least until I hear from them or whatever, and we have our conversation we need to. Also, too, yeah, Sister Cynthia put her information out. It's put the link in the chat earlier as far as the Zoom link, as when we had our early Rise of Bible study session regarding, you know, her book and things of that nature. So feel free to look at that and read through that, and give her your honest assessment, and make sure that it's assessment. It's not tearing down, but it's assessment. And thank you for that in advance as well. So we thank you. We honor you. We appreciate the king, queen in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet, we appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. If you heard this word today, we ask that you study it. And once you realize it works, we ask you that you be hearers as well as doers simultaneously. Please check out my wife once again, the Honorable Alma, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And the tincture of the month is still I Am Rested. And that being said, thank you all for being on. As always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken, until I have the next privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, which hopefully will be tonight, Kofi_42. Please remember, as always, just know that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Take care.